W298BB, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis.
75 years old, and I still wake up with a little guy saluting me.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy.
Come on, let's wake up.
Gotta wake up.
Are you sure you want to wake up to this?
Come on now, wake up.
I can't wait to wake up.
Wake up, idiot!
All right, it's a Thursday. You know it's 7 o'clock. You know it's the wake-up call. KB and Andy hanging out with you for the next 3 hours right here on the Fan. It is game day, KB. We're feeling good. What do you want to see from Anthony Richardson? What do you want to see from the Indianapolis Colts? And then we also, yesterday, and we wake up today on this Thursday on the Fan, fellas, with the realization, a kind of a yucky one, that 6 teams have already reached out for Jonathan Taylor. We shall see if that number grows in the coming days and hours. In the next few days, the Colts give a deadline of Tuesday, and that's where we sit today with a couple offers on the table, and it's becoming a reality, whether you like it or not. Fellas, good morning, KB. You got your Ellie shirt on. You're looking good today.
Yeah,
Look at
that's
you.
a sweep. I almost brought in the broom here on this Thursday morning. A sweep by the Red Legs. Ellie De La Cruz.
Congratulations.
6 RBIs in game 1 yesterday. I do feel like the Angels are a bit cursed. You see Shohei Ohtani?
Oh, you think? Do you think they're a little bit cursed, having
Yeah.
great players and never winning games and having injuries?
Will not pitch again this season with a torn UCL, and Mike Trout to the DL. But yes, the Reds and the Cubs right now, we can hold hands as we are both in the final wild card spots as we head into the weekend series. But yeah, as you said, Andy, tonight, 8 o'clock, our coverage will begin at 5 as the Colts have their preseason finale. In Philly, coverage here locally on RTV6 along with Amazon Prime. And again, once again, it is a absolutely steamy Thursday here in Indianapolis, so good Thursday morning to all of our listeners.
We need to
there.
get you out today in the afternoon. We need to get you out, I don't know, you want to golf? You want
melt?
Yeah, you want to melt? Come on, get out and do a little jog or something like that. We need to get you on this heat, sweat off something. Let's go.
Last night I played third wheel with my wife and her sister.
Okay.
And went over to White River, the TCU amphitheater over there for the OAR and Goo Goo Dolls concert.
We almost went over there.
Really?
We did, yeah. But we were like,
Goo Goo Dolls were in town? I had no idea.
Goo Goo Dolls were in town. A little bit of a frog in the throat of the lead singer. We bailed after about 11, 12 songs.
Is it Resnick?
I'm not sure.
Yes.
Is that
Johnny
his name?
Resnick, yeah.
Johnny Resnick?
57 is what we looked up. We were curious about the age.
He's
I'm probably a little bit
57?
more OAR than Goo Goo Dolls, but there was a period early in the show where it's like, man, this is this is great. I'm just working out just by standing out here in the heat. And then once the sun went behind the beautiful renovated overhang, if you will, it actually turned out to be a decent night. So we had a great time.
Yeah, I know absolutely. The only thing I know OAR isn't it college rock, yacht rock? Is it something like that? Isn't there a song like the poker song?
Yeah, crazy game of poker.
That's the only thing I know. Now, I can do some Goo Goo Dolls.
Yeah.
Now, I do know them.
I'm probably a little bit more. Yeah, I'm definitely more OAR than I am Goo Goo Dolls. But you got to check out that venue. So if you can picture Victory Field,
Yeah.
just pretty much on the other side of Victory Field, right in between that and the NCAA and the Idle Jorg. Beautiful venue. Again, great turnout, even though it was hotter than you know what. And we had a fun little Wednesday night.
Yeah, well, I mean, last night, so I need to do this for the YouTube audience, the breakfast bar people that are like, Sweeney, how much coffee do you drink in the morning? Well, this is going to be right here.
Now, is there mayo in that coffee?
There is not, and I'm not sure I'm going to do that. Actually, I'm the new guy. I'll do the damn coffee and the mayo, and you know I don't want to.
That was easy peer pressure.
First, yeah. I'll do anything shameless promotion for the radio show. That's Sports Radio KB. But that's my first sip of coffee. Got to watch out. Well, the acid reflux. Last night I did a little beer, a little pizza. You know how that is.
Nice. Where did we get the za from?
Giacomo's. Went over there.
Woo!
Yeah, going to be my neck of the woods. So
That is a
enjoyed that.
staple.
Had some beer, had some pizza. Wake up and my stomach feels great by having coffee on top of it. But lots to obviously talk about today. Do we want to dive into, I think there's two things. What do you want to see from Richardson? For me, it's not, every pass being a check down. We can dive into that. And then the realization, Stephen Holder putting the news out there, what about 4 o'clock yesterday, 4:30 or so. 6 teams have reached out to the Indianapolis Colts. You got a couple offers on the table. Obviously, a team worth monitoring continues to be be the Miami Dolphins and continues to be the realization, and it feels very split. I mean, there are still people that believe he will not be traded. Bob Kravitz was on with JMV yesterday, thinks much like Chris Jones with the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe they show up week 8. That's a possibility as well. But then there's another whole group, we talked about it yesterday, KB, that thinks this guy is going to be traded. Why would you not go and move and get an asset like him? And that's where we sit on this Thursday on a game day.
Is it bad for Colts fans to be rooting for running back injuries over the next 48 hours around the league?
Well, if you want him gone, right?
If you want to increase that trade
well,
package.
If you want to, yeah, but see, I guess I view this not different, but one thing I was going to ask. 239-1070. At some point today, we can even take a couple calls on it. And I don't know, and this is just with you. You guys aren't giving off, and KB, I don't think this is your personality. You're not giving off any like sense of panic, and maybe panic's not the right word. That, oh my God, we're going to lose this guy. Okay, and even if you get a nice haul back, if you get a 2 and a 4, if you get a 3, 4, and a 6, or something like that, is it going to kind of pad everything with the fact that, I mean, the best player, the second best player, however, I mean, the best player until we see Anthony Richardson won't be on the team. A guy on Lucas Oil, a guy that, I mean, the majority of fans around here have the 28 jersey, right? I mean, we know that. Is there a sense of anger with fans if this ends up going down? Because until now, it's been talk, and now it ain't talk, man. Now it's 6 teams have reached out. They're going to be good teams. There are some good teams, some teams that can pay him, can give up the assets to do so. And the Colts sit here on a Thursday morning on a game day with a couple offers.
Yeah, I mean, I do think, and I'll say this for the next 6 months, that every decision and everything that happens this season, it all centers around, is this helping Anthony Richardson? And I don't think there's anyone that can sit there and say a departure of Jonathan Taylor is helping his development. I know a lot of people bring up, other types of quarterbacks that didn't have elite running backs next to them early in their NFL careers, whether it was Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or go back to Robert Griffin III with Alfred Morris next to him, and all of a sudden Morris has a one great season in his NFL career. To me, though, Richardson's unlike any quarterback that's entered this league. Any quarterback that's entered this league, particularly as a top 5 pick. No one has the resume or lack thereof, probably is the better way to say it, like Anthony Richardson does, whether it's the inexperience or the inaccuracy that he put up at Florida. I went on with JMV yesterday, and
I heard you. JMV, yes. I had running water in southern Indiana.
Yeah,
Settle down. I went to the bathroom inside.
I guess as a fellow southern Indiana, or as JMV, he can probably get away with that. Yeah. Those comments. But I look back when Richardson was drafted at the last few years of college football, because college football continues to evolve. It continues to be, more of the spread look and quick passes and those sorts of things. And if you look back on Richardson's number of pass attempts he had last season, you compare that to the last 3 years of college football, it is the worst completion percentage of any of them. Any of the quarterbacks over the last 3 years of college football that have thrown at least 300 passes and started 13 games. I think it was like 170-some quarterbacks on that list, and Richardson was dead last.
Yeah, Florida didn't win games last year.
In passing accuracy. Yeah. So there is just no comparison to Anthony Richardson. So I don't think we can say, well, this guy didn't have a bona fide running back, or this guy had that, this guy had that. A lot of these young quarterbacks as well. Andrew Luck's case, his first year, he had a still in his prime Reggie Wayne until he tore his ACL the very next season, and T.Y. Hilton, who quickly inserted himself as a pretty darn good wideout in this league. Richardson doesn't have that. So I think we have got to get away from trying to compare Richardson to other young quarterbacks that have entered this league, because, again, to me, he is such a unicorn and different experience than anybody else, and to me, that's why there's more emphasis on supporting him with Jonathan Taylor. But certainly Miami, their media has been very vocal about their pursuit of Jonathan Taylor. And is the second day pick the Colts are potentially coveting? Is that something that's being pushed back? Because we know Miami doesn't have a third rounder this year. They don't have a fourth rounder. Would that cause some hesitancy from the Dolphins? Again, it was a little tongue in cheek, and I know it maybe is a little bit of a mean thing to say, but I literally mean it, Andy.
I like
running
this.
back injuries over the next 48 hours is something to monitor.
Oh, no, you're not joking.
This is the preseason
understand.
finale, and you got roster cuts coming up on Tuesday, and is this going to be more of a dress rehearsal feel to these preseason games? The Colts are treating it like that. Doesn't sound like the Eagles will be treating it like that. But that, I think, is all things to monitor here, as supposedly Tuesday is going to be the deadline for the Colts and whether they trade Jonathan Taylor
Which
not.
I like, by the way. I mean, to put a deadline on it. Hey, here's what the reality is of the
So
situation.
if you don't move him Tuesday, you don't go into the season
Exactly.
and move him.
Well, no, I think you can, but I don't think it's a bad thing, as you talk about before the season, to set a deadline, and then the data can change and injuries can happen and teams can underachieve, or a team can pop up and say, hey, we're better. We're a few games better than we thought we were going to be, and we need a running back. Let's do it. Listen, there's still a lot to happen, but the realization, like all of these things, it's a step closer. And yesterday, when you find out that 6 teams have reached out and the Colts do have, they may not like them, of course, and obviously right now they probably don't, but listen, you got a couple opportunities with a couple deals on the table, and that had to be the next step, and it is the next step.
12 hours and change away from kickoff tonight in Philly again. The Colts, Shane Steichen has said that they will play a lot of their starters tonight. We'll see for how long. Is it a half? Does it bleed into the third quarter at all? It doesn't sound like Philadelphia will follow suit. So if I have it right here, get ready for Notre Dame legend Ian Book, Marcus Mariota.
Is that where Book is? I had no idea.
Former Stanford quarterback Tanner McKee as the 3 signal callers for the Eagles, not named Jalen Hurts. Obviously, position battle still to watch for the Colts. Cornerback, tight end, that back end of the receiver. We'll hit on that. Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts, he joins us typically on Fridays. We've bumped him up to Thursday with a game day here, and we'll get a little fantasy football conversation coming up in the 9 o'clock hour with Josh Larkey. We know fantasy football drafts are starting to be abundant this time of year, so we'll touch on that coming up. I did want to mention this before we head to our first break. And Kyle Neddenrip, I know, retweeted, I believe it was from Jim Inskeep, the Carmel athletic director, a picture last night of their soccer and lacrosse fields up there in Carmel. Just an absolutely tragic story, the loss of their lacrosse coach, 31-year-old Jack Meacham, who passed in a 2-car collision earlier this week in Hamilton County. The picture of tons of people from the lacrosse community, Carmel community, certainly the Meacham family. It was a very moving photo that was tweeted out last night. So certainly thoughts with everybody, not only Hamilton County, lacrosse related, but of course the Meacham family, as a 31-year-old Jack Meacham, who was the Carmel High School lacrosse coach, lost his life earlier this week. This is the Wake Up Call. KB and Andy here on a Thursday morning in Indianapolis.
Against the Eagles. Sage Steele will stop by as well. We hope you will too. Noon to 3 today.
The Morning Checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, we'll get to some calls here in a little bit. Morning checkdown. Reds winners last night, 2 games. Congratulations over there to KB, 9-4 in the first one.
You like the shirt?
I do like the shirt. Who made that shirt? Is that
yeah, probably. Well, something in the I don't know, China sweatshop here, unfortunately.
Okay, you went right to the sweatshop.
Yeah,
Okay,
it took about 2.5 months for it to get here.
Oh,
but
did you? So you ordered it way off the internet?
Yeah,
way from beyond. There's probably one, in the States, in the Cincinnati area that would have an Ellie De La Cruz
That's a
shirt.
pop up on the Instagram ads that suckered me into this.
The Instagram ad. Yes, none of those
RBIs though for De La Cruz.
None of those are coming from the United States, and now you know. I had a buddy who would get knockoff jerseys. He still does. He would send you have to send like a Western Union, but they're really pretty good knockoff. Like they're like they're knockoff.
Yeah.
You're sending a Western Union from
one
China.
Of those buddies that is able to execute that.
Yes.
How about this for the Reds coming up? Half game up, them and the Cubs, half game up for the final 2 wild card spots. The Reds are half game up of Arizona and San Francisco. Their next 3 series, Arizona, San Francisco, and then the Chicago Cubs.
Don't know it now, but here come the Red Legs.
Oh, boy.
You know what they call that? Make or break.
That is,
That's what they call it.
Time to sweat if you're a Reds fan again.
So yes, 7-3 was the late game last night. You mentioned Mark and his Cubbies, 6-4 winners over the Tigers, the lowly Tigers. Congratulations, Mark.
They stink.
Snuck one by.
Beat whoever you can beat.
Tonight, 8 o'clock kick in Philly. Again, voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor, going to join us coming up here around 9 o'clock. Our coverage will begin at 5. This is your lone national primetime game of the year for the Indianapolis Colts. For those viewing on television, RTV 6 here locally, which I know makes a lot of people happy with the Fox and CBS dispute ongoing for many people TV-wise, and you are going to get Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, and Kaylee Hartung on that broadcast. Again, sounds like the Colts will play their starters. We'll see for how long. Philadelphia, though, the chatter from their media contingent is likely no starting action. So Colts 1s versus Eagles 2s.
Are we going to get to the point at some point tonight where Al Michaels wants to quit broadcasting again? Because that's what happened the last time the Colts were on an Amazon Prime game.
A lot of scar tissue from Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit.
What game was that?
That was
Remember
the Broncos
when-
game last year.
Oh, was it?
like-
Was it Al trying to say to Kirk at one point in the game how entertaining the game was, and Kirk was like, let's not lie.
Yeah.
This is not
calm down.
entertaining
Do you
at all.
guys like Herbstreit moving from college and going to the NFL one day a week?
It's fine.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fine.
it's fine.
Yeah.
I definitely like him
Kirk,
more
yeah.
on the college front more than I like him in the NFL. But, I mean, you could do a lot worse than Kirk Herbstreit.
You guys want to guess on a line for tonight's game? Colts and Eagles.
I'll take Eagles 3.5.
Eagles 3.5. Mark Dykton, your guess on the line for tonight?
I'll take Colts -2.5.
Vegas says Colts -4.5.
4.5.
As,
Okay.
again, Marcus Mariota, Ian Book, Tanner McKee, the quarterbacks not named Jalen Hurts. Also, shout out to Zach Edey. This is a hell of an accomplishment, in my opinion, for the Purdue big men. We've talked about Tyrese Halliburton and Team USA over in the Philippines getting things started this weekend in the World Cup. Zach Edey makes Team Canada. That is 12 spots for Team Canada. Among the players Zach Edey will be with here at the World Cup, you've got R.J. Barrett, Lou Dort, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who is certainly, and you would know this, Andy, one of the best players in the NBA that probably household fans don't give enough credit to. Dylan Brooks, so Zach Edey's trash talking could improve there. Dwight Powell, Kelly Olynyk. I mean, that is
solid, and that's
some
not even
notable NBA names.
and that's not even Jamal Murray.
Sure.
Obviously, who's
Benedict
had the
Mathurin,
injuries.
Andrew Nemhard. Yeah, I mean, Team Canada certainly could have quite the outfit for 2024 in Paris. But Zach Edey, I would venture to guess, not a lot of collegians making their World Cup team. So pretty impressive for the Purdue big man, and I guess he won't be starting classes at West Lafayette for a few more weeks.
Who needs to start those?
Getting this opening day with
those
Fresno
pesky
State.
classes. We can go to the phones here in a second. Last one for me. I want to get to Anthony Richardson. Last one for me on the check down. And I know he was on with JMV, and we may have him before the season, during the season. But Tom Allen having a starter and not announcing it is so bleeping Tom Allen.
You think Ryan
really
Day's losing sleep over the possible starting decision
Plus,
for the Rangers at quarterback?
let the kid have his moment that he was named starting quarterback for Indiana football, right? Can the kid just have his moment so newsmen like Kevin Bowen on the morning check down on the Fan in Indianapolis can read his name off and everyone can say, wow, good for him, right? And then we can move on to the Ohtani injury or Anthony Richardson, right? I mean, come on.
I've said this about the IU football season, and I believe year 6 for Tom Allen. When you are in year 6 and the over-under on wins is 3.5, that probably tells you the realtor in Bloomington should start getting a head start on some things if you catch my drift on that end. He is Andy Sweeney. I'm Kevin Bowen. Mark Dykton is with us. It is hotter than hell here on this Thursday morning. We continue to see some high school activities certainly being impacted weather-wise. I know our game tomorrow night, Cathedral and Brownsburg, that's been pushed back a half-hour start. So continue to watch Friday Night Football Week 2 here. See if 7:30, 8 o'clock starts from our normal 7 o'clock. Speaking of that, the Fever back in action tonight, 7 o'clock over at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. All right, on the other side, we'll get into this Jonathan Taylor conversation. Again, 2 offers reportedly, 6 teams of interest. Is it only a matter of time before a deal gets done here between the Colts and someone else? We'll chat about that on the other side. It's the Wake Up Call. KB and Andy here on a muggy Thursday.
Online.com. That's 459online.com. Tell them Jake Query sent you.
It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, it's a Thursday. It's a game day reminder. Our coverage here on The Fan beginning at 5 o'clock. So you get JMV and then you get a hybrid. Then JMV goes from a gas bag to a professional radio pregame host for the Colts radio network. Do you understand what I'm telling you?
I love the term gas bag.
Thank you. I hope to integrate.
What would a Webster's dictionary definition look like of that?
I don't know. I haven't looked in a dictionary, shockingly, in a long time, KB. I have absolutely no idea. Matt Taylor will join us at 9 o'clock. We do have some calls. I know we want to get to a couple of them. 239-1070 if you want to hop in there. Just for me, before we do so, we can dive into the Jonathan Taylor stuff here in a second. It's a big deal. It's a huge deal. For me, KB, tonight, can I just say this? For tonight, we may, as we go here over the next 2.5 hours, what do you want to see from the Colts? What do you want to see from Anthony Richardson, okay? Can I just answer for me?
Sure.
I want to leave tonight, given that it's going to be Colts 1s versus Eagles 2s, to not feel like that the Eagle 2s won, okay, to not feel like they whipped their ass like we heard that sound yesterday during the joint practice a couple days ago. So that would obviously be one. And then for me, it felt like in the Buffalo game with Anthony Richardson, it was, he took with the defense, gave him, I know he had to throw over the middle, but, with some dinking and dunking and everything. And then we said a similar thing during the two joint practices with the Bears. And then we said the same thing, right, when he was 4 of 8 against the Eagles and the first team defense there in Philly. And so I'm looking for a throwing game that's simply not dink and dunk, okay? I think, that doesn't mean you're throwing the ball, 65 yards down the field on the reg tonight in the first and maybe second quarters, but just to feel like, yes, you can do that. Yes, please. It's better than an interception or a fumble to take what the defense is giving you, but I'd like to see at least a couple throws down the field to make you feel better, and I'd like to see at least, can I get one of these wow plays from Anthony Richardson today, probably using his feet? So those are the things. I don't want to see the corners, obviously, if A.J. Brown and Smith aren't out there to kind of be abused, but for me, yes, taking what the defense gives you is fantastic. It's fine. It's good. I ain't hating on it, okay? But what I am saying is I'd just like to see just a little bit more. I like to see just a little pop to this offense before we go into week number 1.
Yeah, and certainly, in the joint practices that we've seen so far, that has been kind of the norm with Richardson, a little bit more dink and dunk, which, is certainly not his MO. From that. So I agree with you on the, throw a chunk or two in there. Obviously, he had the one that Alec Pierce should have came down with in that preseason opener in Buffalo. I think you pretty much covered everything on a Richardson note. I would say if it is 1s versus 2s, boy, you would hope that your trench play is able to hold up, more than hold up, frankly, is able to win that battle, whether it's your starting O-line, which I believe had 4 of their 5 starters back at practice on Tuesday. Will Fry's the only one still missing, and a lot of people would, maybe like for Will Fry's, I guess, to be missing in terms of looking at different right guards. So that's a group that you certainly want to see more than hold its own. And then on the flip side of that, I would say your defensive line, especially if the Eagles' starting O-line is going to be out. You want to see that unit, which, again, we know that that's what Chris Ballard emphasizes there. If you go back to Saturday, Andy, the Colts played, in my opinion, they played 20 of their 22 backups in that game. The only 2 starters we saw inside of Lucas Oil Stadium. You could probably call Josh Downs a starter. I don't know, maybe Isaiah McKenzie. Josh Downs going to play a ton, though. Would be those 2 corners, and that was Darrell Baker Jr. and Dallas Flowers. So is corner still a competition? I know Darius Rush, the 5th-round pick, a lot of people are high on. He's been banged up. I really like what I've seen from their 7th-round pick, Jalen Jones. And certainly in this market, a lot of people have eyes on the 2nd-round corner, and that would be Juju Brents from Warren Central High School. His availability has not been there, and when he's been on the field, albeit only for a couple of weeks, you just haven't seen a whole lot from him. So is corner still a battle? I tend to think Darrell Baker Jr. and Dallas Flowers have won those spots, but if they're playing when a bunch of reserves are playing last week, that could mean one of two things. A, they're very inexperienced, which they are, or B, you still want to see some stuff. So that would be an area. And I'll throw one more position. That would be on offense. That would be tight end.
Mm-hmm. That's where I was going.
I know a lot of people have kind of said, what about Mo Alley Cox? Is he a surprise cut? Tight end has been really banged up. I don't think Mo Alley Cox is going to be cut, but I understand why people ask that question. So that group in general, from an availability standpoint, mentioned it yesterday. Jelani Woods, a guy that a lot of people I think have pegged for a breakout season. He would be on the list, Andy, of, probably with Julian Blackmon, certainly Jonathan Taylor, of guys that just haven't participated a whole lot here in training camp. So tight end would be another one that I would throw out.
He's been in shorts the entire time I've been in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
he's been on the sideline the entire time I've been in Indy.
So he's ready to be a radio host, right?
So let's go. Let's do it. Do you want to take some calls here?
Yeah, I know Paul's been hanging in there quite a while. Paul was online with us. We weren't able to get to him yesterday. Paul, good morning, man. How you doing?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Paul, are you delivering mail in this weather?
Ooh.
Yeah, I am, but not yet. But later on today,
Gosh, man. In all seriousness, Paul, before we get to your question, thinking about everybody working outdoors today as well, whether you're Paul, construction workers, man, stay cool as best you can, Paul. Find that shade.
I will. Thank you very much. Plenty of water in my cooler.
Good.
So I'll be good as far as that goes. Now, real fast on this Jonathan Taylor thing, I want to say this. Eric Dickerson, Marshall Faulk, Edgerrin James, all elite Hall of Fame running backs. And who's had the best season of them all? Jonathan Taylor. Chris Ballard on Hard Knocks said Jonathan Taylor is the best running back he's ever seen. So if that is the case, why is he not trying to re-sign him? You went ahead and you re-signed Nyheim Hines before his contract was over. You signed Quentin Nelson. You signed Shaq Leonard. You signed Braden Smith. You did all this stuff with these other players, and the best player that he said he's ever seen at this position, he's not willing to come down. He's not willing to meet him and say, okay, let's get something done. You want to get this guy away. He's 24 years old. He's young. He's the best running back he's ever seen, and he's not trying to do anything to make this work. Man, if the Colts let him go, I'm going to be so up. Yes, I'm a Colts fan. I'm going to be so upset with Chris Ballard and hope he loses his job since he let Jonathan Taylor go. But I will still support the Colts. But what they're doing right now with Jonathan Taylor makes no sense to me at all.
Paul, stay cool, man.
Appreciate it, Paul. Paul's the guy I'm talking about. Like, how you feel about this? Like, it's been talk. Sorry to interrupt, KB. It's been talk. It's been talk.
Lays out some great points.
Well, it's been talk. It's been talk. It's been talk, and now it's like, okay, there's a couple offers on the table, and like I put this on Twitter yesterday at the Only Sweeney, and I know organizations, whether it be a college, an NFL team, the Pacers in the NBA, and I'll find out as we continue this show. Like for me, you trade Jonathan Taylor, there's got to be a come to Jesus with the fans. Hey, here's what we're thinking, right, guys? We're rebuilding. We needed the second-round pick. We needed a fourth-round pick. We could not put money.
We're having a change of philosophy.
We have a change of philosophy. The way we thought about JT during Hard Knocks and when we were going to draft him and when we moved up to draft him, it just ain't the way we feel anymore. And that's, relationships change. We wish him the best, but we got a haul, and now we can go fortify the offensive line, the defensive backs, whatever it may be. We can go get some running backs in the third and fourth and fifth round and get somebody solid in free agency. But I think it's been I think once it happens, because I now think it's going to happen. I am on the side that it's going to. I'm absolutely there. I know some people. I know yesterday Bob
sit here in
Kravitz.
shock. I'm kind of like,
well, that's kind of my point.
I'll only believe it when I see. To your point, there's a lot of very respected people that feel like it is going to happen. I still like. I don't know. Maybe it's a sentimental, emotional heartstrings pulling at me here. I'll add one more to Paul's point, and Paul, laid out leverage points for Jonathan Taylor's agent with that call. Andy, 5.1 yards per carry. That's Jonathan Taylor through his first 3 NFL seasons. If you look in the history of the NFL, running backs with the amount of attempts Taylor has had, I think it's north of 750. So basically, if you are a starting running back, through the first 3 seasons, in the history of the NFL, no running back has a better yards per carry. None. I mean, we're talking not just, he brought up Colts franchise history, and obviously Hall of Famers galore, as Paul laid out. But you talk about the history of the National Football League. I feel like I'm
National Football
working
League.
for NFL Films, or I'm Chris Berman right now. No one has a better yards per carry than Jonathan Taylor. And, people have asked, okay, is it more offensive line driven? Think about that, Andy. 5.1 yards per carry, and name me the quarterbacks Jonathan Taylor's played with.
No, I mean,
name me the receivers Jonathan Taylor's played with. Name me the tight ends Jonathan Taylor's played with. It's not like when the Colts get ready to face another team and it's a Tuesday night and that defensive coordinator's like, man, that tight end they got, boy, Matt Ryan going vertical on us. We're really worried about that.
That's Matty Ice to you.
All the attention is focused around that. By the way, speaking of that, I saw a guy in front of me last night at the concert. Natty, I believe it was a jersey that said Natty Rain, number 14. I said to my wife, you think he drinks a lot of beer?
Natty. The personalized jersey. The personalized jersey.
I thought he was just going to dump a beer on himself, which last night, given the weather.
Would not have been the worst thing to do. You mentioned Chris Berman, and I don't know, Mark, I don't know if you caught this. KB mentioned Chris Berman, and then you said, and nobody. And I thought you were going to say, and nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Because you kind of did that. You kind of, and nobody. And I thought you were going to do a Bermanism.
What was he had the Bill, was it just the Bills he picked to win the Super Bowl for like 7 straight years, or was there also like an NFC team in there?
Oh, well, it wasn't my team, so it wasn't the Colts. No, it had to be them, wasn't it? He's picked the Bills all the time.
Mark, is Tony on the flip side of this? Tony is not worried about a trade to Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Good, let's hear it.
Tony, give us more on that. You are, I guess, the reverse of Paul in that you are not worried at all about moving Taylor?
I am glad I hung in, man. It's been a half hour, but Paul was the perfect lead-in. I mean, of course Balor's going to say that. He drafted the guy. He wasn't here for Edgerrin James. He wasn't here for Eric Dickerson, so how the heck can you say it anyway? Andy, welcome to the show. Congrats on the baby coming up.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you.
Here's my take, guys. All right, and since he's not there, I'm going to give you a Jake-ism with a metaphor analogy because you haven't had one for a while. If I'm a painter and I'm hiring somebody for my job to work with me, and he's coming off a shoulder injury, I'm going to have the dude hold his arms above his head for a while to make sure he can paint more than half the wall. Going into the summer, everybody...
Jake is wrestling in his sleep after hearing that.
Right, but everybody going into the summer, including Jonathan Taylor, knew what the situation was with the running backs in the league. And for him to show up knowing the Colts, knowing he wants a lot of money, said, hey, let's just make sure you're healthy if you're going to want all this money. So for him to balk about that and supposedly be upset and angry, to me shows immaturity, and or his agent was pushing him to get money because they both know he's not healthy.
So the fact that Leonard got paid while he was missing 10 straight days of camp and Nyheim Hines got paid.
Guys. Apples and oranges. I'm sorry, it's not the same thing.
What about Hines?
Nyheim? That was stupid, in my opinion.
He got a contract extension.
And I think it was
the same position.
stupid that he got as much money as he did.
Yeah, I'm just explaining where Taylor's frustration comes from. I certainly hear Tony on that end as well.
I got one more though, man. Before I go, please. Wow, that totally threw me off. Sorry.
Take your time. We made you wait 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a half an hour. You could have watched an entire episode of Family Guy or
the
something.
heat is no joke.
Just commuting to the west side to teach, man. It's all good. No, I just think if he was healthy, also, even though he's on PUP, the guys that are wanting to show how good they are, he'd be showing some workouts. He'd be showing videos of doing this or that to drum up interest, drum up his asking price, and to look good. If he was healthy, we'd know it. Have a good one, guys.
Tony, good luck to the classroom today. They're gonna get a fired up teacher here on this Thursday morning.
What time do they start, by the way?
Their homework. Well, I don't know. I feel like schools nowadays is like deeper into the 8 o'clock hour when they start.
Back in our day, we would have been in period 3 already by 7:45 a.m.
Andy, I think those two calls sum it up well, though. I mean, you
it's
have
the two sides,
very divided, sections of this debate. Clearly, the Colts and Jonathan Taylor are very divided on this. Tony brings up points that, again, a running back coming off an injury. And that's the murky curveball in all of this. That is the conflicting thing, is the injury. Because, again, I have heard extremely conflicting reports on the health status of Jonathan Taylor. Taylor's frustration, again, lies with You've paid injured guys. You've paid a running back. To Tony's point, maybe the Colts, whatever. The Hines move was stupid. However, he labeled that. If I had to side anywhere, I'd probably go a little bit more Paul, to be honest with you, than I would Tony, just because, to me, it comes down to one question. Are you helping your guy? Are you helping number 5? Are you helping the face of the franchise? In this move, if you were to move him, I think it would hinder the early development of Anthony Richardson.
The one thing that I wanted to agree, and I kind of liked it at the time, but I don't with Tony, is his last point of, well, why isn't JT putting out workout videos?
I can't go social media on that.
Well, it's not even that. He's injured. I mean, the point is he's injured. If he were a free agent, if he were injured and he had like an ACL injury, KB, and he was a free agent, right? And he was trying to prove himself, what would he be doing? Tariq Cohen's going to be doing much of the same. A guy we didn't bring up, a free agent who you may or may not care about. He's a third down back, a special teams player. We can get to him later on. But he's injured. Otherwise, if this were, hey, I'm coming off an injury, I am now healthy, here's how great my body looks, that would be different. Can I play? Go ahead. Sorry.
Let me just sneak this in. And again, I feel like, well, I follow these Colts players on Instagram. I guess part of it's my job. I can't recall in the 3 years of Jonathan Taylor being a Colt ever seen a workout video from him. He just doesn't strike me as a dude that plops the phone up in the corner of the workout facility and, whatever, asks the summer intern if he can film him doing a 3-cone drill or something like that. I know you want to toss to some audio. Let me sneak Jim in real quick. Jim tweets, and this is going back to Paul's call. Eric Dickerson, Marshall Faulk, Edgerrin James, also all let go by the Colts. Spot on by Jim. I don't think those are the apples-to-apples comparisons with Taylor. And by that, I'll say this. Again, Marshall Faulk, you let go of him after year 1 of Peyton Manning's career. You had Marvin Harrison. You had Tarklin. What did you do? You then drafted Edge, number 4 overall. When you let go of Edgerrin James, whatever it was, 6 years into his career, he had torn an ACL. You had Marvin. You had Dallas. You had Reggie Wayne. Peyton Manning was in year 6 or 7. This is what I'm trying to get at, Andy, of Anthony Richardson in the year 2023 is different than any comparison you can make league-wide, certainly organizationally. Comparing Peyton Manning exiting Tennessee to Anthony Richardson exiting Florida is like whatever. Comparing me to the front cover of Men's Health, like I mean, couldn't be more polar opposite in that. So that's why I think we have got to make sure that we just live in this incredibly unique, albeit intriguing, reality of Anthony Richardson trying to develop and assert himself into the NFL.
You can say, well, his game reminds you of fill in the blank, but I mean, you can go
his game reminds you of Lamar Jackson.
But Lamar Jackson played 3 years. I covered him.
What did Lamar Jackson do at Louisville?
Yeah, he won the damn Heisman Trophy.
He won the Heisman Trophy.
He was the entire team.
What did Cam Newton do at Auburn? Again, you hear about Cam, you hear about Lamar Jackson. I mean, hell, even Josh Allen, who really struggled with accuracy at Wyoming, he still got double the starts of Anthony Richardson in college. So this is where there's just no comparison to Richardson, let alone a guy taking 4 overall.
Well, even him being analyzed, KB, you see it.
Jalen Hurts, 40-some starts.
I mean, come on, please. Jalen Hurts played so much damn football between Oklahoma and Alabama. There's no doubt about it. Even the way it's analyzed, I don't feel like people are sitting in the NFL saying, okay, how many preseason snaps has Bryce Young got? How many preseason snaps has C.J. Stroud got? But guess what? We're going to be doing that with Anthony Richardson. He's probably going to have 25, 30 at least less preseason reps than those guys. I was wanting to play just 2 different things that now I hope by tomorrow I'm able to play this off the laptop. This is something we're going to try, but me and Mark could not get it working today, and we both just kind of threw our hands up and said, well, we'll have to go to IT with this one.
Jake would have trouble connecting to the internet, and you by day 4 have already said, let's play audio off the laptop.
Yeah.
Boy.
There's a new Jake in town,
yeah,
okay? There's a new
Harvard
Jake.
degree over there from a technological standpoint.
Rick Spielman, former general manager, was asked on Sirius XM radio if he thinks Taylor will end up being traded.
I believe if he's going to play this year, he's going to probably have to play with the Indianapolis Colts unless he decides, I'm not going to play for this organization. Everything that has been said and behind the scenes, I'm not going to play for an organization that treats me like that. I'd rather just sit out of football than play again until I'm released or until I get an opportunity with another team. But I just can't envision him playing, not that he doesn't want to or that another team wouldn't love to have him, just in the situation he's in right now. How is he going to get out of that situation?
I don't know if that was the clip. I don't know. I apologize to Mark. I may have mislabeled those.
We need a mulligan on that.
If so, I have no idea.
Was
that Spielman one or
you
two?
need to take a walk.
Was that
You need
Spielman?
to go take a lap now.
Yeah, I
Take
don't
a lap
know.
around Monument Circle. He might not come back up here after that with the heat outside.
I'll be sweating if I do that. Give me Kravitz too, if you don't mind. What about if Bob Kravitz was on? Yeah, Bob Kravitz was on fire yesterday with JMV. I don't know if you heard it. He was before you, and you two have a different style of talking about the Colts, to say the least. He thought, hey, what if JT showed up in Game 8?
They're going to just play this thing out. Game 8 is kind of the magic number, because you've got to play 6 games to get an accrued season and become a free agent. And the Colts are able to put him on this list for 2 games. So Chris Jones, in fact, who's holding out with the Kansas City Chiefs, basically said, "You'll see me in Game 8." So it would not shock me if that's the situation with Jonathan.
What if that's the situation with Jonathan Taylor? Again, I think he's being moved. I think in your heart, there's a great chance, an ever-growing chance he's being moved. What if it's one of those things where it's Game 8, and then you have a decision to make? You move him middle of the season, which we talked about, or you get him on the back end when you're, 2-6 on the year.
Yeah, I need to double check my Jonathan Taylor accrued season, and I mean this in all seriousness. This is not something that I've looked up in quite some time. My understanding is this: if Jonathan Taylor stays on the PUP list, and again, Tuesday at 4:00 is the deadline there, he has to miss at least the first 4 games of the season. At that point, you can then, I think there's a window. I think there's usually a 2-week window, maybe a 3-week window where he can practice. He doesn't count towards your 53-man roster, and then once that window is up, or at any point during that time frame, you can bring him up to your 53-man roster, or you can put him on injured reserve for the rest of the season. I don't know. Part of me was like, if you are on IR, let's say Michael Pittman tonight goes out and tears his ACL.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It was such a pleasant thought by me.
Why are you putting that into the universe?
Someone in a contract year for the Colts. Sam Ellinger to contract year? I have no idea. Someone else in that 2020 draft. Danny Pinter tears his ACL tonight.
There you go. Use Pinter.
Would he be hitting free agency next year? I think if you're on injured reserve, it still counts as a season. I could be wrong about that. I would need to double check that. But if Taylor stays on IR for the whole year, albeit it would be a very heavily debated reason for being on injured reserve for the entire year.
It would be a battle.
But I think that counts as a season. Maybe I am wrong on that. But again, 4 games if he stays on the PUP list. And then I don't know if the Chris Jones thing is exactly the same, considering he's already hit multiple contracts. He's been in the league for much longer than Jonathan Taylor. But again, Andy, this goes back to kind of how we led off the show. The next 96 hours, so much of what the normal conversation for me is about is all right, what positions are they going to try to make waiver claims at? Mm-hmm. Are they going to cut the Mo Alley Cox? Mm-hmm. Is John Simon going to get cut? Kind of a former veteran name that got cut early in the Chris Ballard tenure. Do you keep Sam Ellinger? Is Mike Strawn on the roster? All those sorts of questions, and yet it is is Jonathan Taylor about to be traded? Is he staying on the PUP list? Is he coming off the PUP list? Those questions ahead of Tuesday at 4:00. And again, tonight, the Colts are, I think, one of 2 preseason games taking place. Friday and Saturday is where the heavy schedule is here in the final week of the preseason. It sounds bad. It's reality. What the Colts want right now, or at least what I think they should want, is to try and create the biggest market possible for Jonathan Taylor. The report yesterday, 2 teams have offered, 6 teams have inquired. Well, if those 6 teams have any running back injuries tonight, tomorrow, or Saturday, that's good news for the Colts, as bad as that sounds. So that stuff, again, we can continue to get in. We are approaching about 12 hours from kickoff. What do we want to see tonight from the Colts ahead of their preseason finale in Philly? We'll get to that as well. And again, why Miami? I think that is something to make a case for, because as some people have pointed out, you look at their cap situation, it's not crystal clear yet. Yes, they aren't paying Tua just yet, but still, they've got some big money guys on that roster, so we can touch on that as well. All right, it is beyond muggy here in Indianapolis. As I said to Paul, from a mail person standpoint to a construction worker standpoint, get the wet towels, get the water bottles as best you can. Certainly think about everybody that has to work outside here on this Thursday. I'm Kevin Bowen. He's Andy Sweeney. Mark Dykton with us. It's the Wake Up Call. KB and Andy here, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Pittsburgh on Friday Night Football. The action begins at 7 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You ready, Mace? Party people in the place to be. It's about that time for us to. Yeah.
It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Is that Mace? I think that's Mace, is it not? Who became a preacher and then went back to the rap game. That's true. Hour number 2, DriveHubler.com studios. KB and Andy, Mark Dykton producing today's effort as always. Matt Taylor will join us at 9 o'clock. We'll get you ready for that reminder as well. Our pregame coverage here on the Fan of the Colts and Eagles begins tonight at 5 o'clock. So JMV will take you into that and then anchor you the rest of the way. Josh Larkey will join us at 9:30. We'll talk some fantasy footballs. Those drafts will be happening here in the next week or so, right? You got to wait as long as you can, basically, to get those in. So we'll talk with him.
Do you draft Jonathan Taylor right now?
No. Why would you?
Yes. Late.
So not at all, Mark?
Later.
I mean, not like I'm not taking him with my first or second or even third pick. Like, if he's still sitting there in the 4th or 5th round, I guess. But, like, you have to assume that if you're taking him, he's probably not playing at least the first couple of weeks at least. So he's just taking up a spot on your roster. Wouldn't you rather have more just go somewhere else or a guy that you know is going to be playing?
Yeah, I've never understood the well, and again, this comes from someone that's horrific at fantasy football. I've never understood the late July, early August fantasy football drafts.
Oh no!
Like, why not just wait?
It's stupid. No, you got to do it like this week. You got to do it this weekend, or you got to do it next week.
First week of September. I mean, hell, Labor Day Monday night. Watch
wait till
Florida State, LSU, or whatever the Monday night matchup is, and then
wait
boom, have a little
wait till the
fantasy
preseason is over, and then you do the draft. Anybody that does it before preseason's over, that's just idiotic. Injuries and all that stuff. No, thank you.
Yeah, you can't do it. A couple things I want to throw KB's way. Before we do that, it was funny. Did you happen to look in your email and see the pictures that we took? Our photo shoot. Did you look at any of those horrific photos?
I did, and my biggest takeaway was, damn, that cheese and beer keeps going to my neck.
Mine goes to my substantial gut.
Well,
so whenever
luckily there are a lot of waist up shots.
We need as many.
My
waist
neck
up.
is growing.
You believe you have a growing neck?
I got a growing neck. You know, I have multiple chins. I feel like here.
You need an anti-chin endorsement. That's what you need here.
Does the camera
on the wake
add
up
weight
call. Yes.
Okay, it adds weight. Okay, all right.
Anytime,
that's a little reassuring.
Anytime I do something like that, I always think this is why I'm not in television. Yeah. Plus, the people on TV get crushed all the time on what they look like on TV.
I should have fasted before that photo shoot there.
Well, that's what I told myself for weeks leading into this job. And does it look like that happened last night? I had beer and pizza.
I was going to say Giacomo's action.
Giacomo's in there. I know. It's called lack of self-control, I guess. I wanted to throw this your way, and then I know you got several things. We've talked so much, and here, sooner rather than later, we might have someone from the Miami Dolphins, someone who follows them on, because the Dolphins are one of the teams that are obviously looking at Jonathan Taylor, and they're the leader in the clubhouse on the old DraftKings money line, if you want to pick that. The question I had is, and they have a full running back room. I mean, everyone knows Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr., they drafted a guy, Myles Gaskin, Salvon Ahmed. I believe that's how you say his name, Mark. That's a guy you'll be picking up on your waiver wire in week 12 this year in fantasy football drafts. The reason I bring it up is, you add Jonathan Taylor to that mix, there's going to be an odd man out, and all those guys are guys that signed small, short deals with the Dolphins. I mean, we've talked so much about picks, we haven't talked about getting a running back. I mean, listen, I know those guys don't move the needle too much, but do they move the needle at all? Where if you said, hey, we can't give you, we give you a 2 and a 5, we can't give you anything more, but we can give you Jeff Wilson Jr. Does that do anything for KB?
No, I'd rather take the draft pick. Yeah, I'd rather take the draft picks, and I say that plural. And again, from the Miami side of it, Andy, I'm curious if that's the holdup. Is it the second? And we're basing off of reports here. Obviously, the Colts are going to throw out the initial, this is our 100 out of 100 trade, and we realize some compromise is going to have to happen. Are the Colts saying we need a second and a third, and the holdup is that third? Because Miami, again, they don't have a third and a fourth round pick coming up in April. So, yeah, I wouldn't need one of those running backs. I look at it more from a draft pick standpoint. It's interesting, though, to think about the Dolphins and their pursuit of Taylor. Miami, I don't know if it's quietly, but they've made some big moves here recently.
Oh, 100% they have.
The trade for Tyreek Hill, whether it was the Bradley Chubb move, they look at it, and I was looking at this yesterday. They're 21-13 with Tua as their starting quarterback. That's a pretty good record, 21-13. Obviously, it's been when Tua's not playing is where they've had issues, and they're a sub-500 team. So they look at this potential move and think, all right, if Tua has to miss time, now we've got a bona fide star running back, and that's going to help us try and win those games or not have as poor of a record as we do when Tua's not out there. And then secondly, and arguably I'd say more so than any other team in the league, Andy, when you think about the combination of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Jonathan Taylor, and you think about opposing safeties on a week-in, week-out basis, and you're sitting there thinking, am I creeping up into the, to the line of scrimmage to try and shut down Jonathan Taylor? Or am I thinking about Tyreek Hill giving me the peace sign as he runs by me? Like, that is the just an unbelievable dilemma that Miami could create with this. Now, the question also becomes this. Again, draft pick-wise, Miami doesn't have an abundance of it. And cap space-wise, I talking to some people around the Dolphins, it is they're going to have to make some moves here to try and make room for Taylor. Again, financially, they're not paying Tua just yet, but still.
But they're going to have to make a decision.
Some other big contracts on that.
Well, we forgot about Jalen Ramsey, too. You talk about big splashes. I mean, they went out and got him.
Good point. And he got banged up, right, early in camp.
Yeah, they think he'll be back week 1-ish.
So I'm curious, is that second day 2 pick, is that kind of forcing the pause from Miami in this? Now, if the Colts have 2 offers supposedly on the table, I'm totally fine with the Colts waiting to get through this weekend. Because, again, I think you let the preseason cycle play out. You see if other injuries occur. I don't think there's going to be many teams. Maybe there will be. I don't think Miami's going to sit here on Saturday night and be like, Jeff Wilson just had 10 carries for 88 yards in our preseason game.
We're good.
We're good.
Right.
I don't think they are going down that path. And obviously they're in a loaded division and all of those things. So I can't really sit here and make a strong case. Obviously, there's another team that's made an offer. Is that Denver? That's the team that I've kind of thrown out there. NFC-wise, no one jumps out. I know we've kind of debated Mark's Bears, but I'm not totally sold on that. Obviously, there's Colts connections in multiple spots around the NFL. There's 4 head coaches in the NFL that have coached Jonathan Taylor, which is kind of crazy when you think about Frank Reich, Nick Sirianni, Jonathan Gannon, and Matt Eberflus. So that's pretty wild to have a guy that's only been in the league for 3 years, and you've got 4 of the 32 head coaches that have coached him. So Miami, to me, for multiple reasons, seems like the one most likely. And I know this is going to frustrate a lot of Colts fans. Malky Kawa, the agent for Jonathan Taylor, Miami resident. And you can sift through some likes of tweets that which seems a little insider trading. I don't know if that's the right phrase to use, but people ask me like, is he tampering here? I think you got to prove a lot to get to the tampering point, but there seems to be some convenient interest in the Dolphins, if you will.
Can't you just say you were hacked if things happen? My account was hacked. I don't know what happened.
That's what you can say.
Always, yeah.
Well,
100%.
I was hacked. Someone guessed my password.
Yep. Elon took over. Yeah, you just go there.
It's not Twitter. It's X now. Do you guys care about AFC to AFC?
No,
or is it because the Colts are in such a rebuild? Just give me the damn picks and we'll move on?
Best trade package period.
I don't think it matters even if it's in division.
As long as you're Titans whatever, for all I care.
Whatever the best deal is. That's all you got to do.
Derrick Henry's not going to lead to that. But, yeah, best deal. Yeah, you're in no position to, I think, have a major, like, oh, my gosh, that's the rival. They're on the schedule for this year. No.
There's not one team.
I mean, yeah, obviously.
Do you have a hated team where you're like, listen, even if it was going to be a better
Colts fans
pick.
would say Patriots. But
well, that would be the one. Yeah, they're not going to do it. They have Ezekiel Elliott. Whatever's left of him.
Even at that point,
nothing.
Who cares? You play the Patriots once every couple of years. Big deal.
The Rams, is this the other team that I'm seeing here?
No, who's putting that up? Is that in the? That's not in the YouTube chat, is it?
Fitch just tweeted this link at me about the Rams. Boy, what are the Rams now?
Now, that's not something I figured was going to be asked at 8:11 today. What are the Rams now?
Like,
they're waiting for Caleb Williams. That's what the Rams or Drake made.
Are they there?
Oh, I think they're probably there, aren't they? Are they good?
Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald are waiting for Drake May.
I mean, I don't know.
And
they were bad
I know
last
that sounds
year.
devil's advocate, but I don't know.
I don't know what they are. Yeah, I don't know what they
in
are.
the broadcast booth, or is he still coaching?
I mean, right now he's coaching. Boy, he'd be good in that booth. You know, he got married, right?
Would he be too small?
Ukrainian supermodel. Again, that's an Instagram follow by me.
Well,
her, not McVay.
Rams have
Try sliding in her DMs there.
The Rams have their first round pick since like 2016 coming up. That's kind of crazy.
They should just give it up then.
There's no way they have draft picks to.
I mean, if what I'm looking at is accurate, they have a first, a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, and like 4 6th rounders.
Brian, great seeing you at the golf outing. He chimes in here. Take it from me. You need to grow a beard to hide all that neck stuff. All right, noted. Hide the cheese and beer neck with hair.
Well, that's basically what I've done. That in black clothing.
That is outstanding. Bye, Brian.
I went in because I'm trying to get more voices. I'm trying to get my Colts followers up on Twitter and everything. And everything. We might get a text line in here.
At
and
the only Sweeney.
Yes, thank you. And I went in and I just checked the YouTube chat. In-depth discussion on the GOP debate last night. I said, well, we'll just exit that.
I forgot that I was missing the old.
Did you when you were looking
at
when I was singing OAR there?
When you were singing with Johnny Resnick, 57-year-old lead singer of the Goo Goo Dolls.
Johnny was struggling. Frog in his throat last night. Let's get to Terry. Terry, you had a comment Taylor related?
Good morning, boys. Hey, has anybody come up with a name for that god-awful face that the player currently wearing, number 28, wore into training camp? Has anybody come up with a name for that? Like maybe super angry toddler? But more importantly, if we don't have a name for it, can you figure out where the hell it came from? I suggest March 15th.
You got to help me here.
March 15th. I'm not following. St. Patrick's Day, the start of free agency, the first day of the NCAA tournament, first day of spring.
No, he got a new boss. He was married on March 15th. And in the first of May, he got
Are you married, Terry? Have you been married multiple times? Are those two personal questions?
Oh, man.
I'm on number 3, sorry.
Oh, man. I
The
forgot
old veteran,
Taylor,
I guess.
I forgot Taylor did get married earlier this offseason. I thought he was referencing the agent.
I had no idea I had no idea what Terry was referencing. Appreciate it,
knowing
though.
the date of the wedding.
Hey, good for him.
Was Terry there?
That's what fans do. Where did he get married? I'm sure it wasn't here. Let me guess. It was in Miami. Did he get married in Miami? Did he get married in Wisconsin? Where did Jonathan Taylor get married? In fact, you know what? I'm looking that up. I don't feel satisfied this morning on the wake-up call until I figure that out.
One thing to look for tonight, and I guess he's not going to be out there, but I do think it's one bummer from a storyline that has been very positive for the Colts here through the first couple of weeks of camp, and I guess now all of camp, is the Shaquille Leonard thing. Concussion protocol.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
So he did not travel to Philadelphia. That was Wednesday, the joint practice Wednesday with the Bears. So a little over a week ago now. Leonard, I think this is his third concussion. The thing that we talked about last week with the Leonard storyline, Andy, was this. He has shifted the topic for him from quantity of reps to quality of reps. And I don't know. This might sound weird. This might sound creepy, but we have great access at training camp. I mean, you've been out there, Andy. I mean, you're literally, 5 feet away from watching these guys practice. And if you look at Leonard and you look at his right leg versus his left leg, I mean, just two polar opposite definitions from...
Really?
Yeah, and again, he's had this ankle issue that's pain through the calf that's led to back surgeries, left leg wise. It looks like a totally, I make this analogy a lot. The varsity games tip off at 7:30, the JV games tip off at 6 o'clock. The right leg's a 7:30 game, the left leg's a 6 o'clock game. It's just, and it's wild to see that, and obviously he's been through a ton physically. But I bring all of that up to say, you're paying Leonard $20 million annually. You're paying him to be one of the best linebackers in the league. That's just the reality of the contract he signed and what you need to get from him to feel like you're getting that proper return. And now with this concussion, he played the 6 snaps in the preseason opener. He was nowhere near any sort of plays in that opener. I don't say that to act like he was running away from stuff. I just, in 6 snaps, sometimes you don't get.
It's a possession. Yeah.
Sometimes you don't get a whole lot of action. But he will enter the regular season having yet to make a tackle. He didn't play in the Bears preseason game, of course. Obviously isn't going to play tonight. So I do think that is now the question with Leonard. He's going to play in 2023, and that wasn't a guarantee a month ago. That was a question. He will play. Now it's how is he going to play? How much is he? Is he an every snap guy? That, I think, is a little bummer to tonight when you see the starters out there. He will not be one of those starters, and I think that's a question to monitor here as we get into the month of September and we start talking about actual games that matter.
If Jonathan Taylor, if that entire situation, if it wasn't happening, Richardson would be story 1. Would Leonard be story 2? Do you think right now, especially with him having a concussion and everything you just said?
Yeah.
Maybe he wouldn't. It's just we're not mentioning it much, and it's obvious they need him. I mean, concussion protocol's, tricky.
To that point of, ranking storylines, Andy, it is crazy where we're at with the Colts. And, the Richardson storyline in the last 60 years of Colts training camps would be 1, 2, or 3 on the list of most intriguing. The Taylor news would be in the top 10 of that. Leonard, an all-pro guy who's barely played football in 2 years, and it's a back and it's ankle. That would be, kind of high on that list. The Colts have all these massive storylines, and I touched on it very briefly yesterday, but, a position like left tackle and pass rusher with Kwity Paye and Bernard Ryman, those are big storylines in a normal camp. This just hasn't been normal. Michael Pittman as a free agent wideout. It's been a while since the Colts have had an indecision over a former second-round pick that was borderline first-round pick and a historically great wide receiver draft that Justin Jefferson and all those guys were in. And it's oh yeah, Michael Pittman's in a contract year. There are so many angles to the Colts onion here. So many layers to the Colts onion here. And yet, very understandably, the Taylor and Richardson ones dominate more than any other.
It's Ayanna. Ayanna, I believe, is how you say her name.
Mrs. Taylor?
Yes, Mrs. Taylor.
Or the new boss, as Terry said?
They were high school sweethearts. How about that?
Is Terry going 3rd time's the charm?
Yeah, but Terry also was kind of wrong. And listen, I don't know if this is a show about facts or not. You probably a little bit more than me, a little bit more than Jake in your in your radio history. It's March 16th, Terry. You were
missed it by a day.
You were a day off. I think March 16th was actually. I need to look that up. I feel like that actually was the Thursday of the NCAA tournament. Hang on. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I only remember that
Badgers weren't in it this year, right? Or did they make it? I thought this was kind of a down year for the Badgers.
Purdue was just days away from making history.
Oh,
Kentucky just days away.
Terry can recall the date of all 3 of his weddings. If you have a third, do you even have a third wedding?
If you have a third wedding, do you do a third bachelor party?
Oh, boy, you got to.
You have to, don't you? Yeah, I know some guys that did
that eliminates all friends.
It was 4th, 5th marriage, and he was yeah, we're going to Cancun, and everyone was dude, it's your 4th or 5th marriage.
Do you get gifts still, or is it kind of all right, you've got everything from the last 2?
Yeah.
How many toaster makers?
Yeah, you get a bread maker.
But I am curious, would the friend group embrace the third bachelor party, saying, "Hell yeah, midlife crisis for us, we're going," or "Hell no, dude, we're not doing that. We've already spent enough money on you"?
No, I think this is very clear. Men, yes. Wives, no. If you brought that home and said, honey, fill in the blanks, going to have their 4th trip to Cancun or whatever. I don't know why I keep bringing up Cancun. Jamaica. I don't know. A place that it's easy to get to when you fly. I would imagine wives and girlfriends not happy. Guys, absolutely. At least that's how I view it. I'd be on that plane. I'll be on that plane. I might have a couple buddies that might hit 3. I got a couple buddies on 2 already.
We'll see how many quarters for Anthony Richardson tonight.
It's going to be 1. It's going to be 1, isn't it?
1 and done, you think? I'd like to say a whole half.
I'll take the under.
You're probably right.
He didn't play at all the last game, and
at the start of the start of the preseason, Mark. I remember you and I had this conversation at camp. 4.5. That was the amount of quarters that I threw out there. Of the 12 quarters you get in these 3 preseason games, he's obviously going to hit the under on that. He ain't playing 3.5 quarters tonight. He played a lot week 1. I mean, to be fair, 29 snaps in that first preseason game. That's about half a football game.
No, he did.
Even though he exited after quarter 1, it was a lot of work for the offense. In those 3 series of work. But
you also have to think, though, this is the last real work they're going to get before the season opener now. So if you really want to get some reps in, today's the day to do it.
Yeah, it's funny how that storyline for the preseason finale has changed. It used to be just you're playing the undrafted free agent out of Valdosta State 70 snaps tonight. And dude, you're not coming out. You're playing every special team. You're doing all that. Whereas with the Colts tonight, it sounds like the starters are going to play a lot. Starters I would have questions about playing just due to their health status. Again, we have obviously Taylor. We have not seen Jelani Woods for several weeks now due to a hamstring injury. Mo Alley-Cox returned to practice on Tuesday. Is one practice enough? Ryan Kelly's in that boat. He returned to practice on Tuesday. Is that enough? I believe Will Fry's missed, so that would be the right guard. On defense, DeForest Buckner was back to practice after missing probably a couple of weeks. Again, is one practice enough for Buckner? Again, no Leonard. I think Kenny Moore should be good to go. I'd assume Julian Blackman. So defensively, they should have pretty much their full starting 11 outside of Leonard.
One of my buddies, producer extraordinaire, one of my former producers, a big Colts fan, KB.
Yeah.
He was on the air one time and was talking about Buckner and switched out the B for an F.
Whoa!
One time on accident, right on the air. Had to hit the old dump button there.
Did we get to the dump?
Yeah, we got to the dump. By the way, I might have to bend the knee to Terry. I'm going back and looking. The Indianapolis Colts on March 15th put out a congratulations to Jonathan Taylor on his marriage.
Look, Terry is
so Terry might be right. He might be right on that one.
Public apology from Andy Sweeney on the wedding day, on the nuptials.
I'm blaming Google. I'm blaming the internet.
Taylor.
It's not my fault. Yes, it's not my fault. It's the internet's fault.
You had something, Mark?
I was just wondering if Terry must have been sending wedding gifts or something. He knows a lot about this wedding.
An Amazon gift card.
Yeah.
Terry's writing a book on the do's and don'ts from some veteran of multiple.
Here's a $100 gift card to Buca de Beppo.
We've got Matt Taylor join us here in about a half hour. Again, we'll talk a little fantasy football coming up around 9:30. That'll be Josh Larkey as we get set for some fantasy football drafts. We will give away. Should we go back to the YouTube chat, Mark? Give away a spot in the league?
Got 5 spots left.
Let's go the YouTuber today. Andy Sweeney, I'll put you on trivia duty.
Okay.
So we can think about that here, and we'll give that away a little bit later in the show. Before all of that, Mark, you know how to lead off the morning checkdown.
The morning checkdown. Omaha! On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Oh, you need it, really? You're one of those now?
It's a sweep.
Now, but here come the Red Legs.
It's a sweep, and it's a current wild card spot for the Cubs and the Reds right now. Doubleheader yesterday in Anaheim. Did any of you guys catch the Shohei Ohtani, Ellie De La Cruz interaction on second base?
Yeah, Ellie's like, "Are you real?"
De La Cruz kind of poked Ohtani and gave him "Are you real?" And then Ohtani referenced the little check swing. I know is kind of the right way to put it, but certainly De La Cruz didn't get all of the bat on a particular ball, which got all the way to the wall, and it was kind of a cool moment between certainly two pretty special baseball players, obviously Ohtani in a different level than De La Cruz. But Ellie was 6 ribbies in game 1 yesterday. That's why I'm rocking the shirt here on this Thursday morning. Again, a sweep of the Angels. But oh boy, coming up for the Reds, they've got San Francisco, then Arizona, then Chicago. Just look at the wild card standings right now. Mm-hmm. San Francisco's a half game back of Chicago and Cincinnati for the final 2 wild card spots. So is Arizona. And then, of course, the Reds and the Cubs right now, both sitting there in the 2nd and 3rd wild card spots. Now or never. Now or never for the
Now
Reds.
or never. Oh, it's a now or never. Okay.
I mean, it's got to be, right?
Listen, I'm with you. Indianapolis Indians 9-4 over the Iowa Cubs. I also wanted to bring up this, just in news. It's not a score. But, I mean, listen, Trey Lance was taken so damn high. And number 3 overall? The 49ers gave up 3 first-round picks to move up and get Trey Lance. He is now third string. Sam Darnold beat him out for the backup spot. Kyle Shanahan announcing that yesterday. And then on top of it, it basically became known they've been trying to move Lance now for the entire preseason, and we shall see if that's something that if a team bites on that. Go ahead.
Who's going to give Trey Lance a chance? And by that,
somebody.
and
Vikings. Vikings.
Okay, Vikings.
They wanted. They were a team that liked
quarterback
him.
Interest
they were a team
draft,
that liked him. A couple years ago when he came out.
That makes a lot of sense, and I bring that up of like who's going to give him a chance, and emphasis on the give him a chance. Andy, his last high school football season, his senior year is 2017. Since that season, he's made 20 starts in his career.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
2017. I mean, the year's 2023. He had the one season at North Dakota State. Then he had the one game during the COVID year because they didn't play during the COVID year. And he's made, 4 starts in the NFL?
Yeah, and one of the starts, and I can't remember. Remember it was against the Bears and it was raining? Remember how bad? Remember how bad that game was. Now, a couple different things.
Justin Fields did the slide in the rain.
Yes, he did. Warren Sharp. Do you guys follow Sharp football at all? Warren
he's
Sharp?
like the super analytical guy about the NFL.
He is. He supposedly hits like 64% of his bets, which he battles people about if that number is real or not. Here's what he had to say: the 10 players drafted after Trey Lance. You ready for this? Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Penei Sewell, is that how you say it? J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain II, Devontae Smith, Justin Fields, Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater. Bill Barnwell of ESPN, okay? In return, now remember this, the Niners moved up from 12 to 3 to get Lance. In return, Miami moved to 6, and they got Jalen Waddle. Philly moved down to 10. They took Devontae Smith right in front of my New York Giants. Dallas then drafted Parsons at 12. Miami used their other first-rounders from the Niners to get Tyreek Hill and Bradley Chubb. One of them's how you run an organization. The other isn't. It's crazy.
The 49ers are still really good, and they made that deal. It's wild.
That's what's crazy.
Yeah, they're the outlier.
When they made the deal, I believed in Kyle Shanahan so much that I thought Trey Lance was going to be a stud.
Well, and it was also a reminder, and I've brought this up before, how guys like Andy Reid, whether it was Alex Smith to Mahomes, Sean McVay, and thinking, okay, we've got Jared Goff, we need to go Stafford. San Francisco, Jimmy G, I guess it would have been to Trey Lance. It's all these kind of offensive masterminds saying, yeah, we've got competent quarterback play, but we need more. And again, San Francisco, you could still make the argument that they need more. But yeah, that's where Trey Lance ends up. Does he ever get a full season and health has hurt him? That would be something certainly to keep an eye on. Again, mentioned this in the opening hour, but shout out to Zach Edey. He makes Team Canada for the upcoming World Cup in the Philippines. The USA action will get underway Saturday morning. I think it's Greece, New Zealand, and maybe Jordan. Those are the 3 group games for the United States. But Zach Edey with several very notable NBA players, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, RJ Barrett, Dylan Brooks, Lou Dort. He makes Team Canada. So do you think he'll be excused from classes here to begin his, whatever it is, his senior year at Purdue? Is it a senior year? Maybe he's only
what's his major? Do we know? Is he?
Zach Edey strikes me as a guy that actually goes to class, but if I were him,
he does.
I probably wouldn't. You can imagine how many people. If my dad knew you were in my class, right? Can I get a selfie?
Well, it was the star, Reese from LSU, who said she doesn't go to class.
Angel?
Angel Reese, yeah. She does all of her classes online because, she gets mobbed everywhere she goes because she's such a celebrity. That's the excuse I use, too. I can't go to class today. I'm going to get mobbed. Can you give me the sounder one more time? I have one more here.
Swoosh it.
Yeah, swoosh it. Do you know the captains for Indiana football? Yes. How about that, Tom Allen?
Oh, gosh. I did not know that you were going there.
Cam Camper, Andre Carter, Aaron Casey, Noah Pierre, and Mike Caddick. And if that's not how you say your name, Mike, I apologize to you and yours.
Ohio State a week from Saturday?
Yep.
I think it's good to start the season. I think it's good to get that out of the way.
What, the Ohio State game?
Yeah.
Get that drubbing out of the way.
Yeah, right?
Just get 42-17 out of the way.
What's the early line on that one?
Oh, it's got to be 20.5, you think?
I'm going to go north of that.
You're going to go
I'm gonna
north?
say 28.5.
28.5? Wait, hang on.
It's a 3:30 kick, by the way, coming up a week from Saturday.
That's the CBS game.
Is it really the CBS game?
That's the first CBS game, yeah. It's 29. Look at Mark. What'd you say, 28.5? Mm-hmm. Nailed that, 29.
Ball State's at Kentucky week 1?
Yes, they are. Kentucky doesn't play anyone for the first month of the season, so they can get to their 6 wins and get all their bonuses as a coaching staff.
Purdue hosting Fresno State. Again, Notre Dame Navy, that is a 2:30 kick coming up week 0. I would say the only other real team of note coming up on Saturday, you've got USC hosting San Jose State here as college football gets underway in a couple of days. All right, more on the Colts tonight. Again, 8 o'clock kick from Philly. Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts, joins us in a bit. It's hot, it's steamy, it's muggy. You know the drill. Good luck today. Wake up call, KB and Andy, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
For Indy Sports, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. It's the Wake wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Matt Taylor going to join us at the top of the hour, voice of the Indianapolis Colts. Matt Taylor looks younger than he sounds to me. Is that okay to say, KB?
Oh, yeah.
He's a young. How old is he? He's a young guy.
For a while there, he was the youngest play-by-play voice in the NFL. Well, Matt Taylor is, Mark Dykton, feel free to back me up or disagree, 38?
That sounds about right, yeah.
Who beat him out? Which team? Do we have any idea?
I know for a while he was the youngest. I don't know if he still is, I guess is why I said that. Maybe we can ask him.
Yeah, because some of the teams have some very old men, right, that are still doing it. My man Matt Taylor, how about that? He'll join us at 9 o'clock.
I always wonder, do the play-by-play guys have like a group chat, like across the NFL? That'd be pretty fascinating beyond that.
Yeah, is there a Slack for NFL radio play-by-play voices? Yeah, I would think at the very least you're close with like your AFC South counterparts.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I were Matt Taylor, I would be calling. Who's the Eagles play-by-play voice? Should we know that?
I believe it's Merrill Reese, who has been there since for 50 years.
So the big ones are like what? Is Dave Pasch still with the Cardinals?
Oh boy, now you're quizzing me. I do not know.
Maybe this is boring media stuff that no one cares about.
I have no idea if Dave Pasch is the Cardinals.
Was
yes,
Boog Shambi with the Jets, or am I imagining things?
Boog is not with the Jets right now.
I don't think so.
No.
Boog is obviously with the Cubs. Yeah. I thought at some point he was an NFL.
Pasch is.
Oh, I'm thinking of
Pasch is a Cardinal.
Boy, I can picture him right now. ESPN guy, does college basketball. Jets guy. Bob Wischusen.
Yes. That's him.
That's who I'm thinking of.
That's who it is.
Not Boog Shambi.
Well, let me
obviously.
go the other way. You guys are acting like they like each other. Are we sure they like each other? Sometimes broadcasters can get like this, right?
The Vikings guy is kind of crazy,
like
right? Whatever his name is.
Paul Allen.
Well, I loved him when Favre threw that pick. Why did he throw that pick? You can't throw that pick. Remember when he did that in New Orleans?
Emotions got the best of him there. Which, honestly, isn't that kind of what you want, I guess, out of that?
Get Gene Deckerhoff with the Bucks at like 76 years old. I'm sure he's got some thoughts on things. Then you got Matt Taylor. That would be a pretty interesting.
I got scolded. You guys know who Eli Gold is by any chance? He's the play-by-play voice for the Alabama Crimson Tide.
I do not know. I know Eli Apple.
Me too. He's a bum. He's he was a high draft pick for my New York Giants. No, Eli Gold one time scolded me that the host that I was producing for asked questions that were way too long. And he did not appreciate it and wanted me to pass along to this host to work on his question asking skill. How about that? He left me a 3-minute voicemail. I deleted it. Until this day, I'm upset that I deleted it because it could have been something that I could have impressed you guys with, and we could have played it on the air or something like that.
If I needed any more reason to root against Alabama, there you go.
Like you need it.
Obviously, tons and tons of NFL, Colts, Jonathan Taylor, Anthony Richardson related chatter. We'll continue that. Coming up this weekend. Team USA for Tyrese Halliburton as he experiences World Cup play. They now officially get that started with pool play in the Philippines. So I believe it's Saturday and Monday morning. You're going to get some like 8:40 tip-off times.
Oh, that's great, man. I'm ready for this.
We'll be having that on in studio. I think this is such a great experience, Andy, for Tyrese Halliburton on many levels. And one, I think, is certainly you expose yourself to other players, marquee players around the NBA.
And Bobby Portis.
And Bobby Portis. Yeah.
Sorry. I apologize to world champion Bobby Portis.
Team USA tends to have a lack of a big man issue throughout this thing. There was a quote from Austin Reeves, who is on Team USA, I think early on in the process, just absolutely gushing about what it's like to play with Halliburton. And I bring that up, Andy, because now Halliburton gets exposure to 11 guys that you would all, maybe not Bobby Portis, but several of whom you would like to be on the Indiana Pacers. Mm-hmm. And we know how this league operates. This league operates with, teaming up and, trying to build these sort of quote-unquote super teams. And Halliburton, I don't think, has been shying away from this is part of my Team USA sort of process of I would like to show guys what it's like to play with me and to potentially attract some talent. Of that Team USA roster, anybody stick out to you as some players maybe down the road that you'd like to see the Pacers try and pursue?
Okay, well, I think there's two. I think there's guys that are on, like, the highest level in the NBA, and then there's, like, the guy who's in the second level of the NBA, and that's not, denigrating them. For instance, Cam Johnson, right? It's a fine player. Cam Johnson, though, is kind of a second-level player. You would agree with that. I mean, it's obvious he's not a top-level player. If you made me pick one,
I would take Cam Johnson on the Pacers.
100%. Now, he just signed a 4-year deal. Now, we were talking about this during the break. The problem with all this is all these guys have contracts, right? They're all locked in. They're going to be faces of their organizations, or like Austin Reeves, he signs a deal in the offseason, probably took less money, did take less money to stay with the Lakers. You know who I've kind of, I don't know, I've kind of appreciated his value more would be Jalen Brunson. So if you said one guy on the team, I believe Jalen Brunson.
Isn't that a bit redundant? With
it is. It's 100% redundant. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. But he would be one. I don't know, probably Brandon Ingram too on that list, maybe for me.
I'm going to go Jaren Jackson Jr.
Okay.
Not just local product, but I think he's an extremely talented big guy and kind of, gives you a little bit more of a modern look to the big man. Mikal Bridges would probably be the other one that I'd throw in there. I guess Cam Johnson from a wing standpoint. That Austin Reeves quote, by the way, was this. The way Halliburton plays just empowers everybody. He likes to run in transition, and he gets everybody involved. I don't know if he took 2 or 3 shots in our scrimmage, but he probably had 5, 6, 7 assists. And just the way that he plays and gets everybody involved is something that I enjoy. We saw the Germany game over the weekend where they were down like 16, I think it was, in the third quarter. And Halliburton, actually, probably more as a scorer, is what kind of flipped the switch for Team USA in that game. And that's something, Andy, that I was really impressed with Halliburton last year. It's like, I know he can game manage. I know he can Alabama quarterback his way of, it's easy to get the ball in Jerry Jeudy and Jalen Waddle and Jamison Williams' hands. But what if you've got to be a little Bryce Young from last year and you don't have the slew of first-round picks around you? Can you do that? And Halliburton, there were times last year it was like, damn, 20, 25 points, night in, night out, like legit score. And we saw it with Germany, who has, several NBA players in their lineup. He did that for Team USA in that run. So, again, New Zealand coming up Saturday, 8:40 a.m. Greece. I don't think Giannis is playing for Greece.
No, he hasn't. No. Can't believe he would.
Coming up on Monday. And then Jordan. I can't tell you too many players on Jordan.
Mark, you want to break down that roster for us?
I like Michael Jordan a great deal. He's one of my favorite players of all time.
I forgot Team USA got 7th in the World Cup in 2019. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say Miles Turner was on that team.
That's a great memory for you.
To remind you of what Team USA big guys look like right now.
Walker Kessler,
the big man right now?
Walker Kessler is on the team. I should have said him. I thought about it. Hey, Andy, who would you like to see, if Halliburton could recruit anyone to the Pacers, who would it be? Is Walker Kessler. This Walker Kessler guy from Auburn.
So are we thinking Rams and Dolphins for these two teams that have offered? Dolphins, it's been very public that they are the other. Is there any other team that is it Broncos? Is it Bears? Is it Ravens?
I'll roll with the Rams. The Rams, they tried the Cam Akers thing last year, and it didn't work out. And so can they sell Cam Akers again? But you made the great point of what are they? What are the Rams? They're not contending now, right? They're not. So, but you're still doing this. McVay did say, "Hey, I'm in this for the long haul in the offseason," right? Remember, because everyone thought he was going to go to television, which, by the way, he would be fantastic as a media guy. He would work out. Everyone's like, he's John Gruden. Yeah, but I think he also might be a little bit nicer than John Gruden on top of it. It would have less controversy as well.
Yeah, broadcast booth and spending life with Mrs. McVay wouldn't be the end of the world.
No, you can make more money in the broadcast booth. You can make as much money. Hell, if you're a coach, you can make more money, right? Guys are signing $10 million plus a year. The guy would sign Gruden had a $100 million contract.
Those hours just absolutely insane. Picks for the Rams coming up in 2024. They've got round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it looks like they have
everything.
Kind of normal allotment after they spent years just trading away picks.
Yeah, I may have been wrong about them. They're a team that obviously 2 years ago, and then last year, everything went wrong for them. They had injuries on top of injuries. They didn't know if their coach was going to be there. Their quarterback was gone. I mean, so if you sell it as, okay, this is a team that doesn't mind taking some shots. They're in a big market. It would make all the sense in the world. They're not in a rebuild, but they're also not the Eagles. They're not the Chiefs. They're not a team like that, but they're not rebuilding like the Colts, right? You would imagine they're going to have more than 4 or 5 wins. I don't know. If Matthew Stafford is healthy, and that wide receiving core is healthy, and Aaron Donald is there, and he's ready to go, and everything else. I mean, you throw Jonathan Taylor, Akers then becomes the number 2. I mean, to me, that would be something that we need to talk about. Rams just aren't a team. It's interesting. We did, 2 days? We've done days, but the last couple days we've been talking about teams, what team, and we haven't brought up the Rams, and that's because people don't bring up the Rams. I mean, we haven't brought them up at all. I need to look at where DraftKings even had them. I mean, they had to be plus 10,000 probably.
Yeah, there were 5 teams that were above everybody else. Miami was the definite favorite. Chicago was clearly 2. And then I think the 3 they had at like plus 750 were Cowboys, Ravens, Broncos.
Yes.
And for what it's worth,
yes.
I mean, Jerry Jones said they like what they have at running back right now.
Yeah, I don't believe him.
I feel like Jerry Jones, though, if he was honest, like he's just honest.
He would be honest, yeah.
Yeah, he'd be like, yeah, we're looking at all avenues. And Miami reportedly made a call for Josh Jacobs. They looked into Dalvin Cook. I mean, Miami has been very active. They've been extremely aggressive with moves recently. They've got to be the one that I think clearly has legit interest. It just comes down to they don't have a 3rd or 4th round pick next year, and cap space wise, things start to get a little tighter for them coming up here in 2024, and then obviously beyond, assuming they give Tua that second contract.
I mean, it is interesting. We're not even, not even us, but Josh Jacobs has not been a conversation piece at all.
Is he back with the Raiders yet? Or
he's been quiet. I mean, yeah, it's just been quiet around him. There hasn't been any, a bunch of tweets. There haven't been a bunch of agent talking there. And again, I understand the Raiders aren't exactly the best team. And Jacobs is good. Do I think he's as good as Taylor? I mean, that's a debate we can have. He had a great year last year. He won me a fantasy league. So, I love my man JJ. I love Josh Jacobs. But he's a guy that hasn't, that just quite frankly hasn't been talked a lot about. Now, can I ask you something? Would you care? Chris Jones is making a lot of noise in KC. What if Jonathan Taylor was doing that here? Like, not agent, like Chris Jones is making noise. Like, he's tweeting, he's like, I'll see you game
Taylor's a little bit more guilty by association.
Yeah, Taylor's not doing any of that.
Yeah, Taylor
very little of that.
He had the one tweet back at whatever that was.
June?
Sometime in July, I think, when we had that day on Twitter of like the NFL Zoom running back conference, if you will,
by Austin Eckler, right?
Yeah, and then Taylor had one tweet about that. Again, in June, it was one of the more cordial. I disagree with the franchise about my contract situation press conferences you'll ever see when Taylor met with us. I mean, literally right on the Colts practice field after their final OTA practice, I guess their final minicamp practice back in mid-June. But again, when his agent, your actions speak, and obviously his actions have spoken. Even though he's been pretty quiet with his words here over the last couple of weeks, his agent still brings that element of the disdain towards Taylor is very real. I think his fan base has some real venom towards him. And I'm sure a decent chunk of that is agent-driven, but I think there is legit the quiet darling, the star that ripped off the big run against the Patriots, all of that. That has been, damaged. Now, I'll say what I said earlier in the week. As soon as he rips off a 100-yard game for the Colts and they win, everybody will forgive that from him.
Yeah, it's a bottom line business.
We're a long ways away from that happening. 10 minutes, Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts, joins us. Wake up call, KB and Andy here, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
For the Eagles, Mike Chappell joins us, and from The Walking Dead, actor Michael Rooker on the show later on today at 3.
It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I still can't get over that pregnant pause.
I know he did it on purpose, too. I saw Mark smiling. I was wondering, why is he smiling as he hits play on the rejoin?
It is one of the more odder elements I got was just this long pause. And Andy. And I go, oh, all right, if that's what they want.
It is the wake-up call, KB and Andy here on a Thursday morning. Let's give away another spot in our fantasy football league. And let's do it with our passionate YouTube audience out there. We thought, okay, let's go with something maybe listener-related or show-related from today. So reward those that have listened. Again, Matt Taylor's going to join us here in a few. So
some of the names on here, some of the screen names people use on YouTube. Epic. Half of them you can't even mention on the air.
They are absolutely epic. So it sounds like Jalen Hurts for the Eagles is not going to play tonight. So that leaves one of 3 quarterbacks available for the Eagles to play against the Colts. We've named those quarterbacks at different points in the show. The first person to name one of the 3 Eagles quarterbacks not named Jalen Hurts gets in the fantasy league.
And I've got the YouTube chat on live chat. Other people might not in live chat. So I was first. But you weren't. Okay, we already have the first one right here.
I see somebody. Yep.
Who we got?
Durand.
That's who I have as well. There you go.
That was easy.
Yeah.
And efficient. So Mariota over Ian Book was the more popular one? Named by people?
There is someone had Nate Sudfeld in here. I don't think he's not on the team anymore.
Former Eagle, IU legend.
Isn't I believe Nate's somewhere else. Someone did. Hoosier 97 had your boy Ian Book, who of course I always say, Ian Book's in the NFL.
Again, this is why my optimism for Notre Dame football is there. Notre Dame, they made the playoffs with Tommy Rees, Ian Book, and who was the other quarterback the year they made it? Was it Cone?
Was it Cone? It wasn't Cone, was it? And I should absolutely remember this
2018 and 2020.
I would have been mocking Notre Dame making the college football playoff and then being smoked by somebody in the SEC.
Everybody gets smoked. Remember the one year they made it, lost to Alabama by less than Ohio State did in the title game. People don't bring that up.
People don't bring that up, including me. Me. Did you find the other quarterback?
Book in 2020.
There we go.
In 2018 was Book as well. I guess Wimbush was the other quarterback a little bit there in that season, but gosh, Ian Book, 2 playoff appearances in 3 years. That's why I have some optimism on that end. Maybe we'll talk Franklin college football with Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts. He joins us on the other side. Wake up call, KB and Andy here on a Muggy Thursday.
Materials has 10 ready mix locations in central Indiana and is looking for Class B CDL drivers. Highlights include being home every night and every other weekend off during peak season. Shelby Materials stands behind its work, products, and people. We support our employees with competitive wages and benefits, including 401k, PTO, paid holidays, HSA, and a sign-on bonus. Learn more about your next opportunity by visiting ShelbyMaterials.com.
Now, what's happening on West 56th? Brought to you by Shelby Materials, the concrete and aggregate experts.
All right, our coverage beginning tonight at 5 o'clock on The Fan. Matt Taylor and company will have the call there. Cannot wait. I got to meet Matt out at KB. I don't know if you know this. I've only talked to Matt over email for years, so it was great to finally meet Matt Taylor. It's great to have him on the line now as we get ready for the game tonight. We'll have all the reaction here all day on The Fan, getting you ready today, and then obviously tomorrow what happened between the Colts and Eagles. Matt, good morning, sir. How are you?
What's up, guys? How we doing today?
Matt, we're doing fantastic. KB is...
Matt, we got a sweep of the Angels. Come on now.
Well, KB's engrossed in Ian Book research right now. I'm not exactly sure what he's doing over there on the old laptop.
Not as much as Matt Taylor. I know you've got all the Ian Book notes ready to go for tonight, right?
Yeah, we're ready to go on Ian Book. We're ready to go on Tanner McKee. We're ready to go on Marcus Mariota. I have a feeling we're going to be talking more about those gentlemen than we are, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and so on and so forth. I think it's going to be one of those nights for the Eagles. But I don't think this is the greatness of the preseason is that, what one team's trying to get out of the game is different than another, and the Colts are trying to get some more good time on task and more reps and more quality, competition and, live bullets, if you will, for their starters. We know Anthony Richardson's going to play. We know the starters are going to play on both sides of the ball. Now, to what degree and for how long, we don't know. But, that's the preseason now with, the unknowns of, now we're down to 3 preseason games and joint practices. It's kind of complicated, time and, how much starters are going to participate in all of that. So it's pretty much a crapshoot. That's why I'm just so looking forward to, not to fast forward, but let's just get to the regular season, and then we don't have to talk about this stuff for another 11 months.
Matt joins us on the Payless Liquors hotline here on the Fan, 9 o'clock hour. We got you up until 10. What do you want to see from Anthony Richardson tonight? How much do you think he'll play tonight in Philly?
Yeah, again, I know he's going to play. I just don't know what that means. He played 3 series, which equated to a quarter in Buffalo. If I was a guessing man, which I'm not, I could be dead wrong. But you might see that replicated tonight. And what you want to see is the offense capitalize. There were some good moments in Buffalo, which is, that seems like so long ago, but that was really only 12 days ago. You had that second drive of the first quarter where they mixed in the RPO game. The running game really worked. You had some good moments over the middle. The Kylan Granson catch from Anthony Richardson. But then, it was all blown up with holding penalties and a missed field goal. And then he had some drop passes. So, obviously the next step tonight for the offense is you want to put the ball in the end zone. You need to start scoring points and feeling good about yourself as far as that's concerned. But just with Anthony Richardson, I thought in these joint practices against the Bears and the Eagles, for the most part, I thought he got a lesson in taking what the defense gives him. That first joint practice against the Bears, the Matt Eberflus defense, the hallmark of it is to not give up any big plays. And in a 7-on-7 period, maybe kind of forced it a little bit, an overthrow, got picked off by a safety. But for the remainder of that joint practice, and then the next day, and then this week against the Eagles, I thought Anthony did a really good job of getting the ball out fast, understanding the playbook very, very well, knowing where to go with the football, and again, just taking what the defense gave them, or gave him, I should say. And there's nothing wrong with getting first downs. There's nothing wrong with sustaining drives. But again, the next step is converting inside the red zone. That's where the Colts struggled so mightily last year. It's third down when the game is on the line. It's fourth quarter, and the Colts have been drilling that. They have been simulating those situational footballs all training camp long. Kevin, you know that. They did that again on Tuesday in a joint practice against the Eagles. A lot of like high red zone, then some low red zone stuff. I mean, that's where the game is won and lost. It's red zone, it's situational football, it's 4 minutes, it's third down. That really decides winners and losers in the NFL. That's where I want to see Anthony Richardson and this offense improve tonight.
Getting his voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor. We are back to our normal radio trio. So that would be, of course, Matt, Rick Venturi, and Lara Overton with tonight's game on Amazon and RTV6 here locally. Matt, I'm going to list some names of guys that I thought either looked good in training camp or certain, I guess these kind of go hand in hand, or they've improved maybe their positioning on the team, in my opinion. And I don't want to go with like the top 10, 15 guys on the roster because that's boring. So feel free to chat about these guys or throw other names on the list. Wide receiver Josh Downs, offensive lineman Arlington Hambright, defensive end Titus Leo, safety Nick Cross, and then a couple corners, Daryl Baker Jr. and Jalen Jones.
Well, I mean, you got a lot of names right there. I mean, the guys that immediately stand out to me in terms of improving their stock, or at least, raising my own hand and saying they're higher on my radar than they were going into camp. Of that list, it would be Daryl Baker Jr., it would be Jalen Jones. I mean, Jalen Jones has probably had the most consistent camp of the young corners.
Oh yeah, easily.
I mean, of the young drafted corners, just because of availability, but also, I mean, the guy can play. The guy's really, really physical, and I think he's going to make this team because he's really good on special teams as well. He had a really good moment against the Bears, where he's running down and he's covering a punt. He's a gunner, but he showed a lot of physicality to shed some blocks, and then Dante Pettis got twirled out of bounds by Jalen Jones, which was a really, really, really good play. I'll add one more guy to your list there. I don't know if you said him or not. Perhaps you did. But Juwan Winfrey. He's had some really good moments as of late. The last two opportunities to shine.
He's a wideout, by the way.
Yes.
A little back. He's been in the league for a handful of years, right, Matt?
Yes. Yeah, he's a fifth-year guy out of Colorado. He's played some in the NFL. He's had some nice moments. And the reason why you bring him up is he's playing good, and he's a big-bodied receiver, so perhaps he could back up, kind of add some depth behind Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce. And that's kind of the roster mechanics of how you look at this now, with the wide receiver position being a little bit more complicated due to that injury to Ashton Dulin. It's, what kind of bodies do you need? What kind of personnel do you need on your team at wide receiver if you're going to keep five guys at that spot? You got McKenzie, you got Downs. Those two players kind of complement one another. I know that's kind of a lazy comparison, but you get what I'm saying. Maybe you need another guy to kind of complement the bigger body guys if something happens there in terms of injuries. But the guy can make plays, and he did that against some really good corners in this joint practice on Tuesday here in Philadelphia. He had the touchdown last Saturday against the Bears, but he's also played special teams. Anytime he's been active in his career, he has played on special teams, so he can do it. Obviously, when you lose a player like Ashton Dulin, who's an elite special teams player, a great gunner, a great tackler, and in the third phase of the game, that's going to hurt. But I think Juwan Winfrey is, again, 10 days ago, I'm not talking about that, but now, when you have the cluster of Perriman and Strawn and Amari Rodgers and Juwan Winfrey is, in my opinion, getting a higher sniff than he was, 2 weeks ago when the Colts were getting ready to play the Buffalo Bills.
Matt Taylor with us, Payless Liquors Hotline here on The Fan. Tight ends, injuries, Mo Alley Cox could be, on that edge. KB, you've talked about that quite a bit. What do you want to see from the tight ends? That seems to be an interesting group that the next few days are going to really matter to those guys.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing tonight is I want to see guys play. It was a welcome sight, on Tuesday. You had Mo Alley Cox back. You had Drew Ogletree back. Drew had been dealing with the shoulder, and then Mo had missed a major chunk of camp. Jelani Woods is still, dealing with his injury, leg injury, and I doubt he's going to play tonight, just given the fact that he didn't participate on Tuesday. So I just want to see availability. I just want to see, you have so many talented tight ends. But right now, if you're filling out a depth chart or you're making, projected roster cuts, you don't even really know where to start because so many guys have missed a large chunk of camp. And it's kind of unfortunate that you're no further along in the evaluation of that position group than you were at the beginning of camp because so many guys missed so much time on the field. So, how much has Farrell Brown pushed Mo Alley Cox, if you will, for a roster spot? I mean, you know who Mo is, right? You understand who he is as a player. He's been on your team. He's been in your organization since 2017. Obviously, he's grown, he's matured, he's improved, but it's just hard when, it's all about the time and the now. It's all about what have you done for me lately? I mean, everybody in this league understands that. The NFL stands for not for long. So, I want to see Mo, make some plays tonight, get some run, again, stay out there. But then also, again, watching Kylan Granson's continued, improvement. He's been probably the most consistent guy out of all of them because he's been healthy. He's been available to play. He's making plays. He seems like he's done a nice job of building rapport and synergy with Anthony Richardson, kind of especially as that move tight end. But, yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on just how much playing time these guys get tonight. And, again, Farrell Brown, how much are you pushing Mo Alley Cox? Drew Ogletree, how much can you push Jelani Woods for a roster spot, considering what Woods did last year, but also knowing he's spent a lot of time on the sideline. So that's definitely a complicated, roster construction component going into next Tuesday.
Again, Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts, is with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline, live from Philadelphia. You get a Phillies game in?
Went to the game yesterday. Yeah, I went to the game yesterday. It was a weird start time, a 4:00 Wednesday start time. Phillies and Giants. Game went into extras. We were kind of debating on whether or not to bail in the ninth inning, and wouldn't you know, it was 5-2. They walked the first two batters in the bottom of the ninth. The Giants do, and then Harper hits a line drive scorcher over to right field, and then blammo was 5-5. So. We left in the top of the 10th. We had to bail out of there. We took the subway, but for my Red Legs, it was good to see. I was kind of cheering on the inside.
Amen to that.
It was good to see the Giants, come back and get that one in extras yesterday.
Granted, you got the Giants now lurking there in the wild card
no doubt,
picture.
Man.
Okay, coming up Tuesday, 4:00, roster cuts, all right? And waiver claims, we've seen Chris Ballard be very active before. We've seen Ballard be active with trades. I mean, I know the Taylor trade is a lot people are talking about right now, but just you trade a 6th-round pick for Grant Stewart last year, whatever that deal was, and now he's a special teamer for you, poke fun at Matt Pryor, if you will, but that was a trade executed by the Colts and the Eagles there late in the preseason. Mate, I'm going to throw 5 positions at you. Running back, wideout, O-line, corner, safety. Running back, wideout, O-line, corner, safety. What would you rank kind of 1 or 2 on that list heading into those waiver claims coming up on Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. To me, I just think the game starts up front. I mean, obviously last year, anytime you go 4-12-1 and you lose your last 7 games of the season, I mean, everything is going to get looked at, and there's tons of problems, and there's not just one thing. But I suppose if you look at last year and you are in an elevator with someone that didn't know what happened to the Colts in 2022, and you had 2 minutes to tell them what happened and where to start, it would probably be along the offensive line. That's where it all starts. If you can't move the ball, you can't protect, it's going to be hard to score points on offense, and that's exactly what happened to the Colts last year, right? Only putting up 17 points per game, and again, not very good in the red zone, leading the NFL in turnovers. I think the offensive line troubles last year were kind of indicative of how the year went, and so I just don't think you can have enough depth and enough, quality competition, especially on those interior spots right now. That's kind of where the Colts are thin as of right now. I mean, we saw it with Will Fries going down. You go back to last year, Danny Pinter was that guy, and then, he got supplanted by Will Fries, but then Will Fries' injury, here late in camp, that's opened the door for Arlington Hambright to run some at right guard. That's opened the door for Carter O'Donnell to run some at right guard. That was evident on Tuesday in that joint practice with Philadelphia. So out of all of those groups, I would probably say, the Colts are probably going to be keeping a close eye on some of the options that are made available to them in the interior of the offensive line on the waiver wire. And that's big because think about it, Kevin, this, after that 4-12-1 season last year, picking 4th overall, they're going to be pretty high up on those waiver wire claims. So they're going to be in a good position to get some good, pieces that didn't make other teams that might be, in a better spot depth-wise, and those players made available to teams like the Colts that might be in need of some reliable pieces that are made available to them on the waiver wire.
What kind of a chance do you think James Washington has?
It's so difficult to say. I mean, it's such a great story, though, because, God, he was signed, 7 o'clock last Friday?
Yeah, then caught a big pass. Yeah.
Yeah, 20 hours later, he's running a go route, and, he talked in the locker room after the game. He lost the ball on the lights and was able to kind of track at the last minute from Sam Ehlinger. And ironically, great for him, it was the longest play of the game. It was a 42-yard catch. It was the longest play from scrimmage on offense for the Colts, and go figure, it's a guy that put pen to paper, the night before. I think it's incredible. I don't care if it is preseason football and, the playbook's pretty basic. Anytime you can go out there and execute a play and have basically, somebody give you a uniform, 10 minutes earlier and say, here, go play. That's incredible. But, Washington's a guy that's been in the NFL for a long time, right? And he was highly touted Pittsburgh Steeler. He had a foot injury and had 2 different surgeries in 2021. Last year, spent some time with the Cowboys, got cut. This past season started, the training camp and the preseason with the Saints, got cut. And so he was just really emotional because he wants to continue to play in this league. He knows injuries have kind of derailed that, just wants an opportunity. So really, really thankful for just the opportunity to close out the preseason here with the Colts. And, you're excited for a guy like that tonight to, continue to ball out, show what he can do, and make this a complicated mess for the Colts. That's a good problem to have when, again, going back to a week ago, it's like, all right, who's going to emerge from this group from Strawn and Perriman and so on and so forth. Now the Colts seemingly have some good options with Winfrey coming on and Washington here and DJ Montgomery here. So maybe it's not as black and white as we thought with Ashton Dullin's injury. Maybe some of these guys are making it tough on the Colts at wide receiver for these roster cuts. That's exactly what they want.
Boy, Mike Strawn on special teams, that is such, I think, a hard dilemma in terms of putting him on this roster. To me, I look at 5 wideouts, 4 tight ends, more than 6 wideouts and 3 tight ends, but we'll see how that plays out on Tuesday. All right, Matt, last one for me. And again, Matt Taylor, our coverage begins at 5 o'clock tonight. You'll hear Mayte, Rick Venturi, and Lara Overton at 8 in the preseason finale from Philly. No better person to ask than a diehard IU football fan, Matt Taylor. The YouTube chat currently, Matt Taylor, is having a debate on the best IU quarterback in the last 15 years. The reason why we're on this topic is some people, were asking if Nate Sudfeld was still on the Eagles roster. So let me throw names at you. Sudfeld, Ben Chappell, Kellen Lewis, Michael Penix, and what about the man with the stogie in his mouth, Xander Diamond? You got the best IU quarterback in the last 15 years?
Oh, my gosh. You forgot about Richard Lego.
Wasn't he with the Colts in a rookie minicamp? Wearing number 21, Richard Lego?
Yeah, that was his jersey number. Yeah. I think he was here on a rookie, the what do you call that? The
local pro day?
The local pro day.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Man, I would probably have to say, the former Eagle in that group.
You going Sudfeld?
Yeah, the 2015, 2016 IU Hoosiers were like really, really good up front and in the skill players on offense. They just couldn't stop anybody. So it was painful to lose games, 38-31, or going to overtime against Michigan, double overtime against Michigan at home and see that game, drop and not go the Hoosiers' way. And then, inevitably that's a game that cost them a chance to get to 6 wins and make a bowl. So, and then it's just always something, unfortunately, with you being an IU football fan. It's like, as soon as Tom Allen comes in, the defense is really, really good, and all of a sudden now we can't score. You know what I mean? It's like it's just always flip-flopped. And so it's just kind of disheartening now that we're going into year number 7, I believe that is, with Tom Allen, and now you're seeing the national projections of, 3.5 wins or 4 wins or stuff like that after, the great 2019 season. Obviously, the COVID season of 20 was spectacular. So, yeah, it's just such a pendulum swinging experience, obviously, being an IU football fan.
Michael Penix, by the way, 6th on the Heisman odds entering this.
I was going to say,
season.
I would say it's Penix because he had the win over Ohio State, but unfortunately part of it is he left and he might be in New York for the Heisman. That's not for Indiana, though, but, I might put him on the list.
They never did. I mean, his greatest moment was that Penn State.
Yeah,
never did
2-point conversion.
Yeah.
Never did beat Ohio State, but see, the Penix experience, unfortunately, I think sours a lot of IU fans just because,
Sure.
great kid, obviously, but just the injuries, like the health. He never was able to put it together, and then, he leaves and goes to Washington and goes back with his former offensive coordinator, and it just goes to show you, man, like relationships and confidence, like that's really what it's all about. It's more so than X's and O's. It's just about where do you feel comfortable, and for Penix, I mean, it was just all about people and surrounding him with the right environment, and that's why he went to Washington. So good for him, but, I don't know who the heck's going to play quarterback for IU in 2 weeks. They're keeping it pretty close to the vest here.
Well, think about that debate when you climb the rocky steps today here on this Thursday morning of game day.
He's got to get all the calories out of his body from the cheesesteaks.
All the cheesesteak calories. You just walk outside today and you're going to sweat it out, so you'll be good to go. Mate, enjoy the call tonight, and we look forward to continuing our Friday conversations here as we start to get into the regular season.
You got it, guys. I appreciate you. Have a good one.
That's a great Matt Taylor right there on the Payless Liquors hotline, and as you just heard, diehard IU football fan, Matt Taylor. All right, Josh Larkey is going to join us here in less than 10 minutes. Fantasy football guru. We know fantasy football drafts are starting to pick up some steam here this time of year, so we'll talk a little fantasy football here in a few. That'll push the pop quiz to the final segment. Before all of that, morning check down time.
The Morning Checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, yesterday in Major League Baseball, the Redlegs, they get a sweep of the Angels. Cubs over the Tigers 6-4. Jake Query in the stands for the White Sox game. Not sure if he stayed for all 10. I certainly would not as a day game in that heat.
He said they hid in the shade, which I don't blame him.
Hid in the shade? That's very
There's
smart.
probably a lot of open seats, a day baseball game for one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball.
Is he interviewing to replace Ken Williams or
Tony Lewis? I want an interview.
That pretty much covers everything. Indians beat the Iowa Cubs yesterday.
What if he was? Like, we're going to go outside the box for our next general manager. We're going to do a guy that's a longtime radio and TV vet. We're going to bring him in and see if we can shake some things up here on the South Side.
Yeah, Moneyball that, right?
Tony, you know what Bart beer is, right? You've heard of that.
Drank Little Kings before, haven't you? Ellie De La Cruz, 6 ribbies in game 1. Kind of a cool moment there captured with the Reds and the Angels of Shohei Ohtani on second base and De La Cruz kind of poking him like, are you real? Unfortunately, the latest on Ohtani, his days of pitching this season are over. Torn UCL. So that's Tommy John, right?
Well, okay, so it's the same elbow. He had Tommy John back in 2018, and so now now it's going to, it's either going to be a lot of rest or it's going to be.
Do you do it again?
Or it's surgery again. The thing about it is, listen, you can look at this a couple ways. I know we haven't talked about it and we're up against a break, but this guy is going to make a lot of money anyway. But part of the reason you were going to pay him more than anybody else was because he could pitch for you.
Sure.
And and now that's done.
Done?
I'm looking at a lot of baseball people on Twitter that are like, the chance of him pitching now and that being part of the conversation going forward has minimized, quite a bit.
Oh, man, I hate hearing that. I guess the magnitude of it, 2 Tommy John surgeries should speak for itself, but I didn't realize to that extent. It's still going to hit this year. It's still going to play out this season, but just really unfortunate for obviously an incredible talent.
Sweeps. That might just be it. That just might be it.
Yeah. Fever 7 o'clock tonight.
The Fever 7 o'clock tonight. That just might be it.
High school football games being pushed back a little bit. Keep an eye on that. Our game right here on the airwaves coming up tomorrow. Cathedral in Brownsburg. Back to 7:30. And then as we said with Matt Taylor, 8 o'clock kick tonight. Our coverage will be 5 o'clock. So JMB, you'll still hear him. But that's going to be a little bit earlier than normal eating into his show. All right, on the other side, Josh Larkey. He's going to join us, talk some fantasy football here as we get you set for draft season fantasy-wise.
Down to the flow. And I wanna, you make it so good, I don't wanna leave, but I gotta know what's your fantasy.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Mark was mixing that during the break, and I was thinking, why is he playing Ludacris? And then I realized the fantasy and the fantasy football connection. There you go.
Mark, very, very good on that.
That's how you produce sports talk radio.
Right.
You
He knows what he's doing
understand
over
that? This man, he's a grizzled vet. He knows what he's doing. But let's get to it. Reminder, coming up tonight, 5 o'clock, that coverage begins. Matt Taylor, JMV, the entire crew there, they got you covered to get ready for the Colts and Eagles. We'll be back at it 7 a.m. tomorrow for the wake-up call to break down everything that we saw and things that didn't happen during the game. And obviously, that will be a lot of fun as well. All right, it's football time, and that means it's fantasy football time as well. Josh Larkey joins us from the 33rd team. We love talking with him. He's on the Payless Liquors hotline. Josh, good morning. Thanks for joining us. And I guess let's start here. Just the local guy, Anthony Richardson. I'm looking at some draft boards, and I'm seeing him taken. Now, I know a lot of that has to do with scoring. I'm seeing him taken anywhere from 8 to probably 11th round. What do you make of Anthony Richardson, and where would you kind of take him?
Well, thanks for having me on and bringing me into Ludacris.
You like that?
First in my fantasy career. The listeners are going to hate me early on, but I think we'll build up steam later. I am not an Anthony Richardson drafter this season, but I will preface with next year I am almost certainly going to love the tantalizing upside of the most athletic rookie quarterback ever. The way we saw him test, his combination of the 40 time, his height, his weight, is essentially Cam Newton but faster. However, when it comes to fantasy, rookie quarterbacks simply don't score fantasy points. The past 15 years I looked, we've had 4 quarterbacks that would have paid off a quarterback 10 ADP. 4 rookies in 15 years. All of them were multi-year starters in college, whereas Anthony Richardson started just 1 year at Florida. So for anyone wondering, I would say we're a year early. Year 2 of Richardson's career, I will 100% buy in. We love the rushing upside, but generally rookie quarterbacks, especially an inexperienced one like Richardson, the game plan for year 1 is so conservative that there's simply just not enough passing for the fantasy points to hit. And you get some nice rushing, but then you look at, we're probably going to see him scoring 15, 16 fantasy points. And I don't think he quite hits that QB 8, 9, 10 price tag.
All right, Josh Larkey's with us talking some fantasy football here. Josh, let's say I've got a draft tonight, okay? Again, I'm not a fan of any drafts before the month of September, but whatever. Let's say we've got a draft tonight. Where would you draft Jonathan Taylor?
Ooh. That's a great question. I've generally been higher than most on Taylor the past few weeks. And I know it's crazy, everyone. I generally start drafting 2 weeks after the Super Bowl. So I have been through the roller coasters of all the...
Are you seeing a doctor, Josh? Are you okay?
I certainly...
He's not okay.
He's not listening. I hope he's not listening. So Jonathan Taylor at one point opened up, like March, he was going at the round 1, round 2 turn, like picks 10 through 15. And I thought, that's really early. He has now slipped. He generally goes in the 20s. And I think that's probably where he should go. There's been the trade rumors, but at the end of the day, if we just look at Jonathan Taylor himself, I think he and Nick Chubb at this point are kind of the 2 best pure runners. The kind of guy that's going to get 20 carries a game, that's going to monopolize goal line work, and depending on where Taylor's traded, not traded, then we'll kind of know what to expect for his pass game usage. But at the end of the day, I don't really want often it's round 3 now. I'm not really interested in fading one of the best pure running backs in the NFL. When if you tell me the guy's going to have double-digit touchdowns and a ton of rushing yards, then I'm inclined to not hate that player once we hit the 3rd round of fantasy. So you're in the 3rd round and your league mates go, oh, Taylor might get traded, or I don't know how I feel about him. I'd say, hey, you're getting one of the best pure running backs. We know no matter where he goes, if he gets traded, he's getting a ton of volume. If he stays in the Colts, he's getting a ton of volume. And I wish he was involved a little more in the pass game. We never really saw that materialize throughout his career. But what we've seen is the Nick Chubb level rusher, and we've generally been pretty happy drafting Nick Chubb round 1, round 2. So Taylor round 3 feels like a pretty solid pick at this point.
Josh, I got to go back to this drafting 2 weeks after the Super Bowl here, okay? I am so how does that work? Like, I know you're not high on Anthony Richardson, but I mean, I don't know, like, do you draft rookies? Like, I'm confused how this works. What is this, a normal fantasy draft, and you do take a CJ Stroud, and you just place him wherever he ends up going team-wise?
That is exactly correct. Yeah, all the players that are potentially entering the draft get thrown into player pools. So I would be drafting certain players and not knowing where they end up, purely off of how they looked as college prospects and what the big media thinks will be their draft capital. So when I'm looking at Anthony Richardson, I actually drafted so much Anthony Richardson early in drafts because he was often going at like QB 25. And I thought, whoa, this looks like a pretty good prospect. He's probably going to be an early first-round pick. So then I had a nice advantage there when he ends up going 4th overall to the Colts. And then his ADP skyrockets to QB 8, QB 9, QB 10. And I said, you know what, at this point, you guys are crazy. I loved him at quarterback 25. I have him ranked right now at quarterback 14. And I think that's fair. He's just outside that QB1 tier. He's a high upside bench stash for this season.
Josh Larkey with us, talking some fantasy football here on the Fan. He joins us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Let me just go back to Jonathan Taylor and just give you a what if. If you're sitting there in the 3rd round and you have the option of, and I'm looking at other running backs, and that's probably not fair, but, you know, Travis Etienne, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, you taking Jonathan Taylor over all 3 of those guys?
Right now, I have Travis Etienne 1 spot ahead of Jonathan Taylor, but I have both of them very far ahead of Aaron Jones. I kind of put tiers to my rankings, and for anyone that's like, what the heck is a tier? You're making me do math? Not making you do math. With my rankings, I am not 100%, believe it or not, even though this is what I do full-time, I am not completely confident that every prediction I have is perfect. It is definitely not.
Really? Well, we are, you know.
Yeah, you're
here
on an island by yourself.
Yeah. We're always right around here. We know exactly where Jonathan Taylor is going to play this season.
So what I will say is, while I have Etienne 1 spot ahead of Taylor, they are in the same tier. And what I would say is that I slightly lean Travis Etienne. If you said, hey, I want to take Jonathan Taylor, I wouldn't say anything. I'd say, great. Which player do you want to watch more? I personally lean Etienne. But if you like Taylor, great. However, they are both a full tier ahead of Aaron Jones. With Aaron Jones, I'm just gravely concerned. The move from future first ballot Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, who's only started a couple games in his 3-year career, that's going to be a pretty monumental downgrade. Also, Aaron Jones does not score rushing touchdowns anymore. That is A.J. Dillon's role. Last year, A.J. Dillon had 7 rushing touchdowns. That's okay. That's good. Not great. Second on the team was Christian Watson with 2 rushing touchdowns. Fortunately, Aaron Jones also tied Christian Watson with 2. But the general idea is that goal line carries are now mostly going to A.J. Dillon. Jordan Love is probably not going to be the incredible check down artist that Aaron Rodgers was, where the play is breaking down and he goes, you know what? I'm going to perfectly find Aaron Jones in the flats. The target volume might drop a little. The receiving efficiency might drop. So generally where running backs score fantasy points is targeted in the passing game or scoring touchdowns. And I think Aaron Jones at this point is getting squeezed on both angles. And he's a 29-year-old running back, which is starting to get up there in age and in the career arc. So I view the young guys, Etienne, Taylor, as much better bets this year than Aaron Jones.
Again, Josh Larkey's with us, director of fantasy betting at the 33rd team. Josh, I am a horrific fantasy football player. I need 2 to 3 core drafting values out of you, if you don't mind. Very selfish of me, I know, so I apologize. But I need 2 or 3 core drafting values to stick by as I get some drafts underway here in the next couple of weeks.
I can do that. So I think a few things right off the bat. One of them is A lot of people hate hearing this, but you are going to want some running backs. Receivers, and everyone's always like, well, I want running backs. One of my rules, I have this little free strategy guide that I threw out on the 3013.com, and I was like, hey guys, you're probably going to want 3 receivers through 5 to 6 rounds. That does not mean you can't take a running back round 1. That does not mean you can't take a running back in round 1 and in round 2. That is perfectly legal. We can do anything in fantasy football. But I think that's one of my biggest things is that when I look at the state of the receiver position, the high-end guys are outscoring everybody else by so much, and they're so consistent. So I'll give an example. Last year, among the top 12 receivers by ADP. So if you look last year at how the receivers were ranked, 9 of those 12 receivers in the top finished in the top 12. So receiver at this point is becoming such a bankable, consistent, high-scoring position with passing offenses on the rise. Running backs, I did the same test. Out of those top 12 ranked by ADP, just 5 finished in the top 12 in fantasy points per game. So receiver at this point is just a bankable position. We can't deny it. I don't think we should be avoiding it. So you want to make sure that you're getting some receivers. So the people that are like, Josh, I love drafting with full testosterone meter turned up running back, then a running back, then round 3 running back, then round 4 running back, I would say, you know what? That sounds really fun. And I think at the end of the day, you're going to look at your draft and go, wow, I should probably have taken 2 receivers in that range.
Well, you mentioned wide. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go for it. Well, I was going to say, you mentioned wide receiver. So Chase and Jefferson, who would you take number 1 as the only running back? I'm looking at some draft boards from some people I know. McCaffrey seems to be the only guy that would get in the top 3 there that's not a wide receiver for me. Otherwise, it's Chase and Jefferson.
That's how I have it. I have those 3 in my top 3. A lot of people like Jefferson first overall this year that like receivers. A lot of people that like running backs will take McCaffrey with the number 1 pick. I actually am going to be taking Jamar Chase with my number 1 pick most of the time. And the case for it is pretty simple. In college, Chase was better than Jefferson. As rookies, Jamar Chase had a better rookie season than Justin Jefferson. Last year, as a second-year player, Jamar Chase had over 20 PPR fantasy points a game, despite a fractured hip mid-season. And that is more fantasy points than Jefferson had in his second season. Chase has just always kind of outpaced him per year of their career. I think this is the year Chase takes over. Jamar Chase had more targets per game last year than Jefferson. So if you're telling me that Jamar Chase gets a mulligan on last year, he doesn't break his hip, he's once again getting more opportunities than Jefferson. Jamar Chase is a faster, more explosive, big play ability threat than Justin Jefferson. He has a better quarterback in Joe Burrow than Justin Jefferson. Not that I don't like Justin Jefferson, but I have to nitpick these top guys, and it's harder for me to find flaws at this point with Chase. I think Jamar Chase is a real threat to be the first receiver ever to hit 2,000 receiving yards. He stays healthy for 17 games. I think that is absolutely in the cards for Mr. Jamar Chase.
Some terrific stuff right here from Josh Lark. Again, the 33rd team is where you can find his content. Last one from me, Josh. Whatever, round 16 rolls around, and you're like, oh, gosh, I don't even know half these names left on the board. Give us a sleeper rookie. Keep an eye on that you like from a skill position standpoint.
All right, guys. We did not like Anthony Richardson. The fans hated it. They turned the radio off. They turned it back on to hope I was off the radio. They still hear me, but they love that I am going to recommend Colts rookie running back Evan Hall.
Look at this.
Okay, wow,
You got the Northwestern kid, the 5th rounder.
Yes, a lot of people be like, Evan Hall, tell me about this. This sounds like a creative player. Why should I like Evan Hall? Well, first off, as we talked about earlier on the show, Jonathan Taylor might get traded. And if he gets traded, you're probably going to want other Colts running backs on the roster. Someone's going to need to get and replace those 250, 300 carries. Deion Jackson right now is probably ahead of Evan Hall on the depth chart today. But one thing that we see consistently with rookie running backs and generally just rookies in general, the more the season plays out, the more they force themselves into the NFL team's starting lineup and into your fantasy lineup. With Evan Hall, he's about 210 pounds. His 40 time was in the 4.4s. That size-speed combo generally translates to fantasy points whenever they are the starting running back. Evan Hall had nearly 50 catches this past year. This is an incredible receiving back with size and speed. We don't get that very often. And you might be like, receiving back, size, speed. Yeah, we see this year after year, like Tony Pollard last year, receiving back with size and some speed. Tony Pollard's actually 210 pounds, like Evan Hull. This archetype of running back is so valuable when they start. And I'm not saying that Evan Hull is definitely going to start games, but he's definitely going to be valuable. But in the last round of your fantasy draft, you want to take a player that has a realistic path to actually starting for you and giving you fantasy points. And Evan Hull most certainly has that, where if the Colts one day say, hey, Evan Hull is going to rotate in and get some good reps, you make sure you have him on your bench. This is exciting. And if he gets 10 to 15 touches in a game, you can start him almost every single week. And that's what I love, is that it's a locked and loaded plug-and-play running back if he gets the opportunities. And I know any Colts fan out there would be like, hey, I love rooting on the guy that for fantasy that I'm watching on Sundays. So that right there is rookie running back Evan Hull. Great final round pick.
Well, Josh Larkey from the 33rd team. You see what he did there, KB? He made up for all the Richardson stuff. And I'm looking at your website here. You're exactly right. How I know your picks are great is you have Daniel Jones many spots over Dak Prescott. So I know that you are dialed.
Giants
you
fan
are dialed into how much of a bum Dak Prescott is. I'm kidding. Josh, appreciate the time, man. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Outstanding right there from Josh Larkey. Evan Hull, I believe, the most running back catches of any player in one of the major conferences last year in college football. That was why. Threw him in my mock draft leading into the draft. Colts took him then in round 5. All right, pop quiz to close it out. That is a fantasy football spot up for grabs. 317-239-1070.
Wrap up the preseason in Philly as they face the Eagles. Coverage today at 5 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Have you studied? Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with KB and Andy. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
Pop quiz time. I have 1, 3, and 5 this time. KB's going to have 2 and 4. One thing we didn't talk about before we get out of here, we're not going to have, obviously, time with the pop quiz, but tomorrow we need to see how this looks as well. We didn't talk too much about the Dolphins reaching out for Josh Jacobs as well.
Yeah, they clearly have had some running back injuries. It sounded like Dalvin Cook.
Yeah,
they made an inquiry or two about.
So. I know we mentioned it, but I mean, Taylor's not the only guy out there that can go get you, 1,100 yards. Josh Jacobs had a great time last year.
And Jacobs, age-wise, kind of falls a little bit more into the Taylor category. Again, a spot in our fantasy league is going to this contestant, Andy Sweeney. Give me a number.
All right, let's do color number 2. I don't believe I've done that yet.
Mark Dykton.
Todd.
Hey, good morning, fellas.
Todd, good morning to you. Welcome to our fantasy football league.
And welcome, Andy, to Indianapolis. By the way, about 4 days down. The show's been terrific so far.
Appreciate it, Todd. Thank you.
He's trying to butter you up for heads here on this pop quiz.
I buttered him up by paying him to say that. So, Todd, appreciate it. We're in cahoots.
Todd, we are slightly up against it, so apologies to kind of quickly move to the pop quiz, but welcome to the Fantasy League, and good luck. Andy's going to start you off.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. It involves a game tonight. The Colts take on the Eagles in the preseason finale tonight in Philly. Who leads the all-time preseason series between the Colts and Eagles? You got a 50-50 shot at least.
Oh, is it
tied? I'll go with the Colts.
You sure you want to do that?
Sure about that?
No, did I say Colts? I meant Eagles.
Eagles.
I knew you did. There we go, Todd.
All right, who's the winningest head coach in Eagles history, Todd? Is it Dick Vermeil, Greasy Neal, Buck Shaw, or Andy Reid? And it's not even close.
I'm going to go with Andy Reid.
Yeah, not even close.
Greasy Neal sounds like a guy that would sell his picks.
Yeah. He did my oil change a few weeks ago.
Picks every single Sunday. All right, number 3. Let's go to baseball. The Yankees.
Joe Wiz's cousin, Mark.
Yeah, exactly.
Greasy
the Yankees beat the Nationals yesterday, halting New York's 9-game losing streak. The streak was the longest for the Yankees since 1982. When was the last time the Yankees lost 10 or more games in a row? Is it A, it's never happened, B, 1966, C, 1913, D, 1905? Good luck, Todd.
Yankees were pretty good in the mid-'60s, so I'm going to go 1913.
Okay.
Ooh, boy, I don't know if we want Todd in the fantasy league after seeing this start. All right, Todd, on this day in 1919, Cleveland pitcher Ray Caldwell, of course, threw a complete game in defeating the Philadelphia Athletics 2-1. Caldwell finished the game despite suffering a unique injury. What happened to Caldwell? Was he struck in the head by a line drive? Was he struck by lightning while on the mound? Was he beamed while batting? Or was he struck by a stray bullet while on the mound?
I feel like we've gone to this question.
Unique injury. I'm going to go with lightning bolt.
Oh, that's a ringer.
He's
a ringer.
No hints, Andy Sweeney, for number 5.
Todd's going to end up with the best fantasy team ever.
Where's Scotty? He's not even in here for this.
I think he's working from home today. Yeah, he's working from home.
Yeah, late night for Scotty. All right.
I'm the guy that sees Antonio Brown available in the 15th round and drafts.
Okay.
Taking a kicker in the 8th round. All right, last question, Todd. You've done great. Today is the 72nd anniversary of the Grandstand Managers Night, in which an MLB team allowed fans to vote on managerial moves by way of signs distributed in the crowd. I like that. Which team held Grandstand Managers Night on August 24th, 1951? Is it A, the St. Louis Browns, B, the Chicago White Sox, C, the Cleveland Indians, or D, the Boston Braves?
The timeliness of these questions,
it feels like a Bill Veeck promotion, and Bill Veeck would have been with Cleveland around that time, so that's my guess.
Going Indians, you said? Cleveland Indians?
I'm going Bill the Indians about that time.
All right, let's see how Todd did.
I mean, he got 1,
I think
2.
we kind of hyped it up. 1, 2,
and 4.
And 3.
Oh, and 3, yeah.
19, 13. Number 5, though. Thank you, Coach Ursay there. 72nd anniversary of Grandstand Managers Night, in which a Major League Baseball team allowed fans to vote on managerial moves by way of signs. This is how the Colts should have handled their final month of last season. By way of signs distributed in the crowd. Which team held that night on August 24th, 1951? Andy Sweeney. Todd said the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah, he was wrong. It's the St. Louis Browns. The Browns defeated the A's 5-3. I'd love to see this. You could never get away with this now, but I would absolutely love it.
How great is that?
And baseball would be the perfect sport.
This is how the Oakland A's should handle their final month this season.
Todd,
stay on the line, by the way.
Appreciate it, Todd. I don't say this to like make fun. This is a great AAA.
Agreed.
Thing that you could do. Get the $2 or $3 beers out there. Right?
Scotty, who was sweating at home, just texted me. He goes, he was right about Bill Veeck, but he was running the Browns in 1951. Just salt meat wounds there for Todd. But he's in the fantasy league, and he will be drafting Antonio Brown. I just got this text from a listener. I have not brought this up for a reason, Andy, because I'm just kind of over it. But he is kind of bringing it up, so I'm going to say it. It is the 4-year anniversary of Andrew Luck retiring during the preseason game. He goes, imagine if the Colts trade Taylor during the preseason game tonight while he's on the sidelines.
While he's on the side. So that means in 4 years, somebody else. In 4 years, Anthony Richardson's going to retire during the preseason or get traded.
Welcome to Indy, Andy, boy.
Man.
Now, it would be a road game tonight.
It would be a road game.
A little different. Nonetheless, thank you to Matt Taylor, Josh Larkey for joining us. You'll find those on the best of. We've got you covered all the way up and through kickoff tonight. We'll talk about it all tomorrow. Wake up call. KB and Andy rounded out tomorrow.
Jonathan